Bum, 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 bum. Hi, chat. Hi. Happy Friday. We've got Michelle Troconis to get through. Um, it's a 6 hour long thing. I didn't know it was going to be that long. So we're going to do part of it tonight, but we are not doing 6 hours tonight. I did promise Danny on I would stop by for a birthday party that she's having tonight. She is 34 years young. I'd be doing lines of butter, buddy. I'd be doing lines of butter. You know, no, our blogger's late. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. So, we're gonna do a couple hours. We're gonna do a couple hours here, and we'll go forward. Twitch is quick with the notification. I told you Twitch is good. 2.0 doesn't lie. I mean, sometimes she's wrong, but she's telling the truth. I'm a triglyceride guy. Oh yeah, 100%. Ethan Rouse says suffer show. Suffer. Yeah, well, we're doing that too. So Young says, thank you for saving my Friday. Well, we'll be doing this for a little bit, yes. Clinical decision, yikes, says Michelle Troconis. Okay. So Michelle Troconis, if you do not know who she is, we're gonna have to go back here and we're going to need to do I'm going to pull up a thumbnail because that's how we're gonna do this. Easiest way to look at it. Okay. All right. All right, so we are going to explain the story of Michelle Troconis. It's not Troconis, Troconis. Have you prayed for Trump today? I mean, he's gonna need a lot of prayers. So, Pseudosnark, we are gonna do Karen Reed tomorrow. We're gonna finish up Michelle tomorrow. We're gonna start Karen Reed and see how much of it we can finish Saturday, and then probably catch it up on Sunday. And that way, we're like Karen Reed it up for the rest of the week, like we're ready to go. That's my plan. So that's how we're looking at it right now. I think that makes a lot more sense. Joni Miller saying hello. Well, yes, hi. So here's where we are. I don't know what the sentence was. Yes, let's keep the sentence quiet, guys. I did see it accidentally, but I'm not going to say it. So here we go. Here we go. We are going to actually share a different screen here, and it's going to be this one. All right. Can I draw on this thing? Okay, good. Okay, so this lady in the front, right here, in the middle, this is Michelle Troconis. All right, she is famous for being on like ESPN Deport Days. She's from Venezuela, and she moved to America. So keep that. Put a pin in her. This person right here, this is Jennifer Dulos. She got married to this guy, Fotis Dulos, and they had a bunch of kids, and they lived in Connecticut. Fotis Dulos was a developer and ran a construction company building houses in Connecticut. So what happened from there? Well, back in, through like 2016, 17, 18 into 19, the marriage between Jennifer and Fotis basically collapsed. And they got a divorce. And they were getting a divorce. So they were divorced out. It wasn't finalized yet, but Jennifer had her own home and Fotis still had his home. In 2019, actually, wait, do I have that right? Yes, 2019. 2019. Is it circling off? Okay, well, I don't know what to do here. So we'll just anyways, you guys can tell the two little people on the side. That's Jennifer and then Fotis. So over here. Oh, I see why I'm off. Hold on. I got it now. I got it now. Does that look better? Does that look better? Does that line up? Because I'm trying to do this in a way that makes sense. No? Okay, well then fuck it. We're not going to use it. Anyways, the green box is Jennifer Dulos. The yellow box is Fotis. They get divorced. They're getting divorced. In 2019, Jennifer disappears one night. She disappears on Memorial Day weekend. So actually just this past weekend. I took the lines away, guys. Jennifer disappears. And nobody knows where she went. It's actually a mystery. Not like Sarah McLachlan where you're building a mystery, but we're building a mystery, okay? Your layers are out of order probably. Yeah, but we're going for it. We're going for it. So Jennifer disappears. Nobody knows where she's at. They can't find her. They start investigating Fotis and Michelle. Because at that point, it's come out that Michelle is now Fotis Dulos' mistress. And they're banging, obviously. So as the investigation goes on, they understand and they catch Fotis and Michelle driving around Connecticut, dumping off garbage bags, which the police later find have bloody clothes and blood in them. They can't charge her with murder because they can't find a body, so they get charged with evidence tampering, is what they initially got charged with. And then in 2021, or in 2020, they got charged with murder. Fotis Dulos commits suicide. He runs his car in his garage and suffers from carbon monoxide poisoning and dies. That's why there's a line through Fotis Dulos. Michelle has been fighting the trial the entire time. So that's why she's here. She's the last one standing. So she's being charged with the murder, and she's being charged with helping make the murder happen. She aided and abetted. It was complicit in the murder. Fotis Dulos' attorney, his actual attorney, was also indicted for helping the murder. So that guy has not gone to trial yet. So that's where we are. That's the entire story to today. Michelle was convicted of evidence tampering, multiple other crimes, and murder. So, yeah, it's where we are. That is where we are, chat. I hope that makes sense. So Michelle's getting sentenced today, and we'll switch over to the better channel that has less crap on the screens, but they cover the beginning of the sentencing better here. So here we go. This is Michelle coming out. Yes, if you guys don't remember, this is the very dull trial with all kinds of DNA evidence that took forever for them to present.
This is the matter of State of Connecticut versus Michelle Troconis. May the court have the appearances of the parties, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. Michelle Manning for the state.
Your Honor, good morning, and may it please the court, Sean McGinnis for the state.
For the record, John Schoenhardt representing Mr. Troconis. I note, could I ask that the handcuffs be removed, please?
Granted.
Your Honor, good morning. The interpreters would just like to request that if anybody will be reading anything today, whether they be letters or other documents, that they speak at a moderate pace. We tend to speak a lot faster when we read.
Thank you. The court will first explain how it intends to proceed today. The pre-sentence investigation report has been delivered to the court. Presumably, it has been delivered to counsel. Yes.
Real quick, I should add Michelle Troconis as because English is not her primary language. She may speak it well. She has the right to an interpreter, though, because her native language is Spanish. Even though may she speak English fluently, that is her mother tongue.
Your Honor, if the attorney could just have a moment to put on the headset.
We'll see his bow tie in a minute, guys. We'll switch over to a better channel at the beginning of the trial. We'll speed this up just a hair.
Are you picking up, Madam Monitor?
Guys, this judge was actually very, very good. I was very impressed with him.
Madam Monitor, are you picking up? Thank you. The court has had the opportunity to read the pre-sentence investigation report. The court is going to first indicate how it intends to proceed. The court will inquire of counsel as to whether there are any corrections to the pre-sentence investigation report, any mistakes.
This is normal.
The court will then
Correct issues.
proceed with the state's remarks and the statement from victims. Then the defense will have its opportunity to make remarks and statements in support of the defendant and, of course, the defendant's right to allocution. The court will then deliver its remarks. The session this morning will run for as long as it needs to prior to 1:30. So rather than have a recess at 1 o'clock, we'll take the recess at 1:30 and resume at 2:30 if there is an afternoon session. The court on a previous occasion indicated to counsel that it would delay ruling on certain motions until this morning. The court is going to give counsel an opportunity, a very brief opportunity, to reiterate its arguments concerning whether or not the court should vacate any of the conspiracy convictions other than the conspiracy to commit murder conviction. So the court first will hear briefly, because the court has copies of written memoranda from both sides. Senator Schoenhorn.
This is so she was convicted of a multiple conspiracy offenses, and this isn't abnormal to try to make another attempt at an acquittal motion at a sentencing because it's your last chance. You try it again.
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, I'm not going to reiterate. I cited to the court some examples. Yesterday afternoon, the state filed a memorandum. I'm just going to briefly address a couple of points. First of all, in my opinion, the state incorrectly cites the law of the case doctrine as being relevant here. As I understand the law of the case doctrine applies to a ruling by a coordinate or different judge. It never precludes a judge who's considering a matter to reconsider that matter. So that simply does not apply. And with regard to the Ellison case that's cited at footnote 1 of the state's memorandum, I will just note, I read that last night. Not only is it not controlling, I would submit it's irrelevant. In that case, there were two separate agreements among gang members, one to beat up a third party, and the other to have sex with a 14-year-old girl. And they said clearly that was two separate conspiracies. They were not the same. That's the only case the state cites. I know they cited cases that deal directly with issues such as murder, other violent crimes, and then efforts to cover it up. And every one of those cases says, and unless there was a federal case where months later, that that's part of the same conspiracy. Therefore, based on that, I asked the court to find that there was only one conspiracy and issue vacatur, however it's pronounced, to vacate the other two conspiracy counts. Thank you.
All right, now we're switching over to the better court feed. Here we go.
To vacate the other 2 conspiracy counts. Thank you.
Thank you. Counsel.
Yes, Your Honor, good morning. Firstly, I'll just note that I think that the defense's supplemental authority is once again asking the court for the same relief that the court has already denied. It's my understanding, Your Honor, from our last hearing, and the court obviously can correct me if I'm wrong, but the court indicated that at least one of the conspiracy to commit tampering with physical evidence charges would stand. The issue was whether there was one agreement to tamper with evidence or multiple agreements, as I understood the court's ruling from April 10th. So my objection is essentially that they are asking for relief that has already been denied. Now, whether or not the law of the case doctrine to coordinate judges, I have not been provided with a case that stands for that proposition, but I'll note that the defense did not file a motion for reconsideration. So if we're going to get technical, there was never a motion reconsideration filed, so the court can deny this motion on that basis. But I'll just note, Your Honor, that under Ellison, it's very clear the factors that this court has to apply when the defense indicates that that case is irrelevant, but that the hearsay cases that they cited somehow are controlling. I'm flummoxed by that argument because it's readily apparent, Your Honor, from our case law, if you look at Ellison, you look at Brown and some of the other cases that have addressed this issue, that the factors which are laid out in Ellison, which incidentally come from the Second Circuit case law, are controlling for determining whether or not there can be multiple conspiracies. Now, with respect to the merits of whether or not there can be more than one conspiracy to tamper with evidence, it's the state's position, and we argued this extensively at the April 10th hearing, that there was sufficient evidence for the jury to find that there was multiple conspiracies, not the least of which is there was 5 days of separation between the 2 allegations of conspiracy. They took place in different towns. They had different objectives. One was to clean the vehicle at a car wash. The other was to dispose of clothing and other potential instruments such as zip ties and things like that in the Hartford area, etc. So I don't want to rehash the argument that I made on April 10th, but I would ask the court to deny the defense's motion again.
Thank you. The court gave counsel an indication as to what its preliminary views were on the charging of 3 conspiracies, 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder and 2 counts of conspiracy to tamper with physical evidence. The court will now elaborate on its preliminary view. In United States versus Jurgensen, that's a 2019 trial case in the Northern District of New York. The court held that acts of concealment that are undertaken for the purpose only of covering up the criminal conspiracy after its central objectives are completed do not extend the duration of the conspiracy. In other words, the original conspiracy does not contemplate every act that is subsequent for which there is an agreement. Now, that case cites Grunewald versus United States, the United States Supreme Court case, 353 U.S. 391 at 405, a 1957 case. Now, this court finds that there can be a conviction on only 1 count of conspiracy to commit tampering with physical evidence because each incident of tampering follows only 1 unlawful agreement. State versus Lee, a Connecticut Supreme Court case, 325 Connecticut 339 at 343, a 2017 case. The Supreme Court held that the proper remedy when a defendant is convicted of 2 counts of conspiracy arising from the same unlawful agreement in violation of double jeopardy is a vacator of one of those conspiracy convictions. Therefore, this court vacates the conviction on count 4 of the information, conspiracy to commit tampering with physical evidence. The remaining conspiracy counts are conspiracy to commit murder and 1 count of conspiracy to tamper with physical evidence. And the court does not find persuasive the argument that a conviction on conspiracy to commit murder and conspiracy to tamper with physical evidence violates double jeopardy. The double jeopardy clause of the United States Constitution.
So that means she could be charged, not only convicted, but sentenced separately on both offenses. Conspiracy to tamper with evidence and conspiracy to commit murder. So the judge could smack her up with multiple sentences and they won't merge. They can be consecutive to each other. So he's pointing out he can pound her if he wants to.
Contemplates three general categories: a subsequent conviction after, rather a subsequent acquittal, and then a retrial on the same facts, a conviction and then a retrial on the same facts, or multiple punishments for the same offense. This case contemplates multiple punishments for the same offense because the court has determined that only one conspiracy to commit tampering with physical evidence can stand. The central purposes of the murder conspiracy concluded with the death of Jennifer Dulos. The conspiracy to conceal evidence of the murder is a separate conspiracy.
Judge, sorry. Just to button up the record, Your Honor, may the state, pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 5496, just ask for permission to appeal the court's ruling. I'm not saying we're going to, but just to button up the record so no one says we didn't ask.
Yes. Moving to the pre-sentence investigation report, before we return to counsel, the court notes that there are at least two matters that the court has to address.
Yes, he speaks in a lot of...
On the second page, the charges of the case. The Office of Adult Probation includes...
This is not a death penalty state. It's in Connecticut. And she's not charged with capital murder anyway. So...
the following statute: 53A-48, 53A rather -48, and 53A-54A, and indicates that the penalty.
What the hell? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, chat.
Probable cause. The facts leading to the investigation and a finding of probable cause. These facts are not taken from the facts adduced at trial. They're taken from warrant affidavits and police reports in the course of the investigation. Attorney Shanahan, you may be heard.
Thank you. That was going to be what the court just indicated was going to be my first remark, that these, the so-called offense conduct is taken from police reports and warrants. To a certain extent, they are not what the evidence showed at trial, but there's only a few that matter that I'm going to bring to the court's attention. First is on page 4, where it states that that with regard to the timelines, which were pejoratively referred to by the police as alibi scripts, it states that the two were drafted, quote, together, that they authored it together, is the way, the exact quote is, an account of 5/24/2019 and 5/25/2019, which Fotis Dulos and Troconis together had authored. I'll just submit that the only evidence at trial was that they were done separately, that the first time Ms. Troconis saw the version that Mr. Dulos prepared was during the interview. So it asked that that be corrected, because it's not the evidence that was either presented or came from the remarks of Ms. Troconis during the interview. The other portion, which was of some discussion and cross-examination made clear, is on page 6. And again, this was from the police warrant. It stated that Ms. Troconis stated that the paper towel that was handed to her by Mr. Dulos, it says, quote, here it says, it was brown in color and did not smell like coffee, quote unquote. The undisputed evidence is that she says, I didn't smell it. And in the video, she indicates by pulling it up that she never even smelled. She was handed it and placed it in a garbage bag. So again, that was something that was, I argued even was misleading in a motion to dismiss or a motion to suppress. But in any event, it shouldn't be in here because it's not what the testimony was at trial. I also am not certain at the last sentence on the bottom page 6 into the top of page 7, it states that the timing that Ms. Troconis, quote, provided to investigators was not corroborated by the cellular data of Troconis and Fotis' cell phone. Well, first of all, Ms. Troconis' cell phone data was not introduced during the trial, but even from the motions to suppress where it was raised and Mr. Dulos' cell phone, it did corroborate what she said about going back and forth between 80 Mountain Spring Road and 4 Jefferson Crossing. So I don't even know where that statement comes from. It might be in one of the reports, but I indicate that's contrary to what the evidence was at trial. On page 7, in the paragraph, the third paragraph, the one that begins with the word detectives, it states here that that detectives reported that on 5/29/2019, Fotis, Dulos, and Troconis together shuttled Gumieni's Toyota Tacoma pickup to Russell Speeder's car wash. That is, again, the opposite of what the testimony and the evidence showed. What the most one could say is Mr. Dulos drove the Tacoma and Mr. Dulos drove the Tacoma and Ms. Troconis drove a Yukon vehicle, followed, and that Mr. Dulos brought the vehicle into the car wash and paid for the car wash, and Ms. Troconis and Mr.
And guys, before we get too far, I think I need to make sure we understand. A pre-sentence investigation report is a report done to give the judge basic information about the defendant. He doesn't know anything about Michelle Troconis except what happened at trial. Doesn't really know anything about her upbringing, her life, her education, her health, all the things he wants to know to make a proper sentencing out of it. Now here, if there's a plea, the pre-sentence investigation report is going to contain a police report. When you have a trial, it should contain what happened at trial because the police reports are different than what happened at trial. And her attorney's pointing that out. And this judge is a defense attorney previously. He understands that, and he's not going to punish her according to bullshit in a police report, but they have the right to make that record.
Dulos went to see the lawyer. There was an appointment with Ms. Troconis' lawyer. It was the first appointment in Westport with Attorney Bowman. So I submit that that statement, again, is inaccurate, and I ask that it be corrected.
They happen for most sentencings.
As far as the, I mean, I'm not going to quibble with some of the things that may or may not be different than the evidence, but anything those are the things that are material. There are things in the reports that there was either no evidence of or was contrary, but it's not material. Those are the only things that I wish to bring to the court's attention with regard to the particular statements in the report, since this becomes part of the permanent record and follows with Ms. Troconis. So I ask that those changes be made. If I could just have one moment, I just want to make sure that I don't have anything else that I need to bring up. Just have one more moment, Your Honor.
Thank you. Best plugger ever. I appreciate it.
There is one other matter, and that was also of some evidence, and in fact, it was played for the jury. I believe I believe it was Detective Kimball admitted it was incorrect. It states here on page 6 in that same third paragraph that begins detectives, in the last, second to last sentence, it says, Troconis began cleaning windows and then gave up because she realized the house was too big. That was made clear that that was a false statement, that was, or at least it was inaccurate, and Mr. Kimball admitted that it was. We played that portion for him, and she never said that. That was something they asked her, and she said, that's not true. They said, well, we have it on tape, and they played a portion, and that portion did not include that statement. So I believe that should also be removed. The fact that she was cleaning, but I think the part about windows, because that was never said, and therefore it's inaccurate to put it in here. That's it.
Thank you. Again, the caveat is that the reports that were generated during the course of the investigation and the warrant affidavits, the warrants themselves, served as the fountain for which much of the offense conduct is recited. However, the summary and recommendations somewhat, this court believes in large part, mitigates some of what counsel has indicated. According to the Office of Adult Probation, members of which did not attend the trial. The court is reading from the summary and recommendations. The extent of her role in the instant offense is not fully clear. That's from the Office of Adult Probation, which did not attend the trial. So if there are any corrections that have to be made, the corrections are noted as a record, but it would not change that ultimate view by the Office of Adult Probation.
That's very weird.
Are we ready to proceed, Attorney Manning?
We are, Your Honor. If I may just comment on the state's view for the PSI.
Yes.
I will be brief, as Your Honor has already indicated. What I will agree with counsel on is I'm not going to quibble over the facts on how they are presented in the PSI. As Your Honor has indicated, it does not reflect any bit of the trial and a lot of the details that came out on the trial. For the summary and recommendation, I don't at this time have any substantive changes or considerations with respect to the PSI as a whole, but the state will certainly be remarking on it as I go forward. But we are ready to proceed, Your Honor.
And before we do, as a housekeeping matter, there were a number of letters that the court had requested be provided to the court ahead of time. I have also taken those same letters, I believe, if my math is correct, there's 63 of them, placed them on a disc, handed that to the clerk. I'd also emailed them to the state well in advance, so they had every one of those letters. I asked that that be marked as, I don't know how if these are court exhibits, because it's something to the court. And then there was a letter, so that would, as a disc, constitute one exhibit for all 63 plus or minus letters that the court received. And there was a letter that was sent directly to the court that was then emailed to my office by the clerk by a Barbara Ruppert. And I asked that that letter be marked. I don't know if the court already did, but I asked that that also be marked as an exhibit for a court exhibit for purposes of today's sentencing.
The same as well, Your Honor. We have about 12 speakers who are going to speak to the court. They have presented letters. I have put those on a disc and provided copies to counsel. As well as on the disc is each of those speakers has picked a special photograph that is special to them regarding Jennifer Dulos. So I have that on the disc as well. I ask that that be made, however it is marked as well, and the state is ready to proceed.
Okay, so what we will do is for the defense disc, we'll designate it as defense sentencing A. For the individual letter, defense sentencing A1. For the prosecution sentencing 1. You may proceed, Attorney Manning.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I just may have one moment. Your Honor, Michelle Troconis stands before this court after being found guilty by a jury of her peers to the charge of conspiracy to commit murder of Jennifer Dulos, tampering and conspiracy to commit tampering for disposing of evidence in Hartford on May 24th, 2019, and tampering and the conspiracy to commit tampering for destroying evidence in the Toyota Tacoma on May 29, 2019 at Russell Speeders in Avon. She was found guilty by a jury of her peers after trial, as well as hindering prosecution. Before I go into the state's remarks and recommendation, I'm going to ask the court to hear from the people who are most devastated by the defendant's selfish, manipulative, and cruel actions, by her agreement to murder Jennifer Dulos, by her assistance in covering it up, and by her failure to accept any responsibility or show any remorse. I'd ask the court to hear from Jennifer Dulos' mother, sister, 5 children, and the friends who have kept Jennifer's spirit alive despite the cruelty of Michelle Troconis. I'd ask Your Honor first to hear from Jennifer's mother, Gloria Farber. If I may just have one moment.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Judge Randall, for giving me the opportunity to speak about my daughter, Jennifer Rebecca Dulos. When Jennifer did not answer calls, texts, did not go to a scheduled doctor's appointment on May 24th, 2019, the day Jennifer disappeared, I knew something terrible had happened. When I learned about how she died, my thoughts turned to my wonderful daughter, Jennifer, who only wanted to give and to get love and to be a loving mother. She lived in fear for her life and fear that her husband might abduct her children. I thought of how to help my grandchildren when they learned how their mother died. How could I help them and myself cope with the unthinkable? My strength came from needing to cope. My purpose was clear: to be there for my grandchildren and for my daughter, Melissa. My daughter and Jennifer's loyal friends thought it was important to honor Jennifer. We organized a ceremony at Temple Emmanuel in November of 2019, inviting people near and dear to her, family and friends. Knowing songs that Jennifer loved, we asked a pianist and a woman singer to sing her favorite songs. The chief rabbi spoke, as well as several other people. Then we had a reception at the Harmony Club, where we had brunch and more music, and I recited the words of a song that inspired my husband and I to find the right name for Jennifer. It starts, Jenny Rebecca, 4 days old. How do you like the world so far? It is a song that was written by Carol Hall. She sent me the lyrics with a note saying, for your Jenny Rebecca. Due to Jennifer's character, she had the ability to connect with a select group of friends to whom she confided and empathized with if they had any issues. These are the friends who have remained with the children, sharing, taking care of their health, education, and encouraging their athletic interests. They're available to hug and love them, and when needed, disciplining them as their mother would have wanted. They have planned vacations, celebrated their birthdays and name days, providing, when they are couples, male role models who interact with the children as if they were their own sons and daughters. In this way, creating blended families by including their children. One being widowed and having met Jennifer in graduate school is able to mentor the children on any subject. Run with one of the boys who loves running. She has become our family spokesperson. Jennifer's sister, their aunt, loves them deeply and provides a connection to their mother. We honor Jennifer by creating a memorial stone near her father's gravesite. The stone is a replica of her father's gravestone. Jennifer had always wanted to be buried near her father. Now we had a memorial stone where the family and close friends gathered. I asked a rabbi from the temple who knew about my family to preside. She recited Kaddish and asked if anyone wanted to talk about Jennifer. Her sister spoke eloquently, as well as many of the other participants. For years, we searched for her remains, tracking down every lead. This search continues. Every year, we honor Jennifer on her birthday.
Hey guys, I am on the phone with somebody real quick. This is an important phone call to me. This is the sentencing, and her family Jennifer Dulos' family gets to speak. They get to talk about her. They get to say how much they miss her, how much she was in their lives. This is her mom talking about her. So it's just like any murder trial. It's about the spark of life and what she lost and what happened. So yeah, they get to talk about this. This is entirely normal.
September 27th, 1968.
Hi, David. How are you doing?
On that day in September, her children, her sister, her friends, and I crossed the street from my apartment and we walked to Central Park,
Yeah, TLDR.
carrying purple balloons, Jennifer's favorite color. We sit on benches and using markers, we write messages to her. Then we let the balloons go and watch as the wind lets them float to the sky. We watch them until the balloons disappear. Jennifer filled her children with love, wisdom, and humor. Jennifer would have been very proud of her children's accomplishments. They will always have their memories of her, as do I. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I would ask the court to hear from Melissa Farber. Melissa is Jennifer's sister.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about my sister, Jennifer Barbara Dulos. On Christmas Day of 2018, my mother and I were visiting Jennifer and her 5 children. When her children were out of the room, Jennifer mentioned that Michelle and Fotis were engaging in some type of fraud. She was extremely concerned about this. At 8:45 on the morning of May 24th, 2019, I awoke with a startle. I did not realize at this time that my sister Jennifer's life was ending. But there was something in me that was shaken to the core. At 10:04 a.m., I sent Jennifer a text in which I told her about my recent trip to Florida to visit our Uncle Jerry. In that same text, I wished her a happy Memorial Day weekend, but I never received a response. By the end of the day, my sister had become a missing person. I loved Jennifer since the day she was born. I remember holding her when she got home from the hospital. I was so proud to have such a beautiful and precious baby sister. And as the years went by, my pride in Jennifer grew stronger. She grew up to be a talented writer and a beautiful person. I miss Jennifer's intelligence, her soft, sweet voice, and the sound of her laughter. There are really no words to adequately express what losing my sister Jennifer has meant to me. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I would ask the court to hear from Petros. Petros was only 13 years old the day his mother was murdered.
Good morning, Your Honor. I am Jennifer's eldest son. The defendant's actions in conspiring to murder my mother have had irreparable effects on my life, many that I'm still figuring out each and every day. I've been left with a hole inside of me that I know I will never be able to fill. Losing my mother tore me from the joyful innocence of my youth and made me confront the horrors of the world at an early age.
Sorry, the interpreter will have to ask the gentleman to speak a little slow.
My mother was everything to me. But during the divorce, I became very bitter with everyone around me, especially Mom, because she was always trying to help me. This meant that I hurt the person closest to me because I didn't know how else to voice my pain. The defendant's actions mean that I will never be able to tell my mom how sorry I am for not being a better son when she needed me. I will never be able to tell Mom how proud of her courage I am, most importantly, how much I love her. This fact haunts me every day. There are feelings and thoughts that I will never be able to express again because my mom was the key to those parts of me. I'm upset that I will never know the man I could have become if my mom was still here to guide me. She was my hero, and now I often feel lost without her comforting smile and her meaningful discussions. I wish I could share my victories with her, but I can't because she is not here anymore. I wish I knew she was in the stands watching me play. I wish I could come home and show her my grades and feel the genuine pride in me that I only got from her. I wish we could sit for hours and discuss everything there is to talk about. I wish she could see me mature from a boy into a young man. I wish I could hug Mom again, but I can't now. Your Honor, I understand that sitting over there is a mother with a child and a family who love her. My mom once had that. We once had that, and she helped destroy it. That woman appeals to our sympathy under the guise of being a mother. She has desecrated the meaning of that word for me. This statement is primarily about my loss, but I also want to highlight my mom's exceptional nature. The number of people who have rallied around us is a testament to the devotion she inspired in those close to her. I want to end with the lesson my mom taught me.
Guys, he has the right not to show his face, but more than likely he's a juvenile still. So, possibly. I don't think they were 17 in 2019. I think he's 17 now. So, there's multiple ways that could happen. So don't read into that too much.
Leave everything the same or better than you found it. Michelle Troconis, you did the opposite. You should be punished. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to ask the court now to hear from Kiki Davis. Ms. Davis was a close friend of Jennifer's, her lifelong friend.
Your Honor, I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts and experience regarding the loss of Jennifer Dulos. I hope the photos here today will give you a visual sense of her kindness, gentle nature, humor, and genuine love for her family and friends. And our words will reach deep and convey our loss. In 1973, I started first grade in Brooklyn and was very fortunate to be in class with Jennifer. She and I became best friends, which over the next 46 years even grew closer to a sisterhood. When Jennifer filed for divorce and was fighting for custody of her children, our friendship grew even deeper. I reminded her often that we were family and that I'd always be there for her. On one occasion, she asked if she could include me and her children as her children's guardian in her will. At that time, I thought it was a smart, practical decision, and of course promised to care and love for them as my own. I'm grateful we had this conversation as it has guided me through the years together. The loss of Jennifer has greatly impacted my and my family's lives. We went from 5 to 10 in our hearts, and even larger if you include Lauren, Laurel, Carrie, Caroline, Melissa, and Gloria. We have learned our hearts are capable of so much love. It has also been a real test to my family's strength. I've been an absent mother to my own children and spouse to my husband, especially during the years that I divided my time living 2 weeks per month in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the other 2 weeks in Brooklyn with Jennifer's children. The heartbreak and guilt of going back and forth has been one of the hardest tests I have ever endured. But that was a choice I made and not entirely something Michelle Troconis did to me. However, Michelle Troconis' actions, and perhaps lack of actions, greatly impacted me daily, as I am now the closest person to a mother these 5 may ever have again. My friend Jennifer should be in my shoes hugging her children each morning. My friend should be in my place hearing them laugh or cry. My friend should be by her children's side as they do their homework, get ready for bed, or wish to talk about friends. My friend should be here to teach her family history, her history, and her young years. My friend should be here singing songs, watching their sports games, and doing puzzles with her children. My friend should be troubleshooting and agonizing over colleges, ACTs, and summer jobs. Her children should feel the safety of her hug. They should know her incredible patience and love for listening. They should hear the sound of her wonderful, contagious laugh. They should experience the innate wisdom she holds about the right course for their future. They should feel, not remember, her unconditional love. Over the past 5 years, I have done my best to be a mother to Petra, Theodore, Christian, Constantine, and Noel, while always carrying the deep sadness that it should be Jennifer, not me, seeing and being present in her children's lives. Michelle Troconis, you took this from them. Thank you.
Your Honor, I'd ask you to hear next from Theodore. Theodore is Jennifer's son, and he was 13 when his mother was taken from him.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
My mother was the best mom I could ever ask for. She loved me and my siblings unconditionally. She was the brightest light, a shining star, the most unselfish person you would have ever met. At the time, I did not really know all that she was doing. But looking back at it, it was truly incredible. Taking care of 5 young children, dealing with divorce court, checking in on her mother, and trying to stand tall against the evil working to bring her down. My life now is nothing like it used to be. I no longer have my mother, my hero. I'll never talk to her again. I'll never do my homework with her again. I'll never ask her for advice again. I'll never go on an errand with her again. She will never see me graduate high school. She will never see me graduate college. She'll never see me get married. These are just a few things, and they go for my 4 siblings as well. Michelle, I will speak to you in English because that's the language we've always communicated in. Michelle, imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and your daughter is gone and you will never see her again. Gloria Farber lived this nightmare on May 24th, 2019. What if it was not your daughter, but your sister Daniela, gone without a trace? Melissa Farber went through this on May 24th, 2019. What about if you woke up tomorrow and your dear friend Petu was gone and you would never see her again? Kiki, Laurel, Carrie, Caroline, and Lauren, to name a few, experienced that terror on May 24th, 2019. What if you woke up to the news that you would never see your mother again? My 4 siblings and I experienced that life-crushing loss on May 24th, 2019. 5 kids lost their mother. Michelle, you caused this damage. On May 24th, 2019, you not only knew about, but conspired to murder a daughter, sister, friend, and mother of 5 kids. That day, you took away 5 children's source of comfort, our protector. You showed no remorse, and you have yet to show any to this day. You have sympathy only for yourself when you realize you will be punished. You expected to get away with it because you believe you are above the law. You thought nobody would suspect you and that all suspicion would fall on my dad. Unfortunately, you underestimated law enforcement and the justice system in our country that day and the days and months following. You were caught red-handed and you're shocked. You will spend the next however many years behind bars, and this will give you the time to think about what you have done. Every day, you will wake up in a small cell with not much to do. You will have many years to contemplate what you know you have done. If you have just the least bit of humanity, I suggest you let all of us know exactly what happened that day and where my mother is. Do the right thing, Michelle. Admit to your family what you did instead of trying to keep their family pride. Ephesians 4:25. Therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body. I will never forgive you for what you have done, and until you give us more answers, you will be considered evil, violent, and most definitely a coward. An appropriate sentence, Your Honor, would be 50 years. 10 years for each child who lost their mother that day. May my mother rest in peace. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I'd ask Your Honor next to hear from Laurel Watts. Laurel has been Jennifer's friend since childhood and is now a caregiver to her children.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
This is my friend Jenny at 20 on my roof in Brooklyn, the summer we lived together. Jenny Farber was my friend for 46 years, from when we were 4 to when we were 50, from community nursery school to middle school math class to Brown University. You have to be pretty extraordinary to inspire friendship that evergreen. She was. All the adjectives: deep, beautiful, genius, outrageous, gentle, and wise can't even come close. We lived together, traveled together, and we held each other's babies when they were born. And I am lonely for Jennifer every day. My conversation with her lasted for 46 years. It ended on May 24th, 2019, forever silenced. I have her last voicemail. I have her last text saved on my phone. I have no other friend who knew me at 4 and at 12 and at 20 and at 50. The Jennifer that knew me at all those ages is gone. And all those Jennys stretching back in time exist only in my memory. I can't see them in her face. Sometimes I can glimpse them in her children's expressions, hear their laugh in theirs. On March 1st, 2024, Michelle Troconis was convicted of conspiring to murder Jennifer Farber Dulos. By killing Jennifer, Troconis cut off a future for Jennifer and for us. So much of this trial has been about what was: a failed relationship, divorce, court orders. But every time that I was with Jennifer and her children, she was deeply, truly content. She was always holding one kid's hand, had another in her lap, was making a crazy joke with 2 of them. She delighted in them wholly. The most relaxed, beautiful, and fulfilled I have seen her in all my years of friendship with her was with them. That should have continued, growing and changing and evolving. But because of Michelle Troconis, Jennifer's kids never got that future with her. The week before she was killed, Jenny called me. She was feeling hopeful about the future, that there was light at the end of the divorce tunnel. I said, "We're going to have so much fun. You're going to find someone to love who loves you. You're going to be free." But because Michelle Troconis, Jennifer never got that future, and I never got that time with her. By killing Jennifer, Michelle Troconis shattered Jennifer's family. I have spent every day for the past 5 years, numb with grief and raging with anger, working with these extraordinary people to piece this family together. We are a patched, wobbling, defiant, and loving thing. At the same time, I have struggled to protect my family from the fallout and the grief, my neglect, and my anger. I've asked everything of my husband, my children, and my aging parents, and I will keep asking it of them because our project is never going to end. By killing Jennifer, Troconis left 5 children without a mother. I witness that loss every day. I take solace in Jennifer's children, Christian and Constantine, Petros and Noel and Theodore, because they are part of her and they are now a part of me, like she was a part of me. But every act of mothering them, hair brushed, hands held, secrets kept, fights, worry, and pride is bittersweet. All joy is mediated. Because every moment that's good and every moment that's bad, Jennifer desperately wanted. It should be her visiting colleges with Theodore, lazing in bed with Christiane, cheering at Noel's volleyball game. It should be her wrestling with Petros's ACTs and laughing at Constantine's newspaper article. Not me. But Jenny's not here. Because Troconis helped destroy evidence and lied to the police, Fotis Dulos remained at large over 9 months following the murder of Jennifer, from May 2019 to January 2020. That's May, all of June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. We lived in a state of fear that we would lose the kids to him and that they would be hurt. Hours after the murder, Dulos demanded we return the kids to him. 2 days after the murder, he was raging in our lobby. Even after he was arrested, the police warned us that he would kidnap the kids or enact some violent revenge on us for taking care of them. I did the calculations. How long did we have from when the ankle bracelet alarm went off until he arrived on our doorstep? 1 hour? Maybe? The kids were accompanied everywhere by armed security guard for 9 months, and I was never not on alert. Because Troconis helped destroy evidence and lied to the police, Jennifer's body has never been found. I could not mourn Jennifer openly because she was missing. I could not answer the kids' questions, where is she? I gave a eulogy at a memorial without a body. Her mother put a headstone over an empty grave. Because Troconis assisted Dulos in the disposal of Jennifer's body, all we do have is a bloody bra and a shirt stiff with Jennifer's blood, sliced up the center. And all of the horror engendered by these, our only artifacts. That's what the kids have left of their beautiful, gentle mother. And that's what I have left of my friend. In the instructions explaining the scope of the victim's statements, we are invited to give our opinion as to what should happen to the defendant. In my opinion, Michelle Troconis deserves the maximum sentence available under the law. 1, your cruelty is stunning, and therefore you deserve a sentence at the upper limit of the range. These 5 children were not an abstraction. They were not your boyfriend's kids, a photograph on a desk. You skied with them, you lived with them, you fed them, you tucked them in. Your child, Nicole, is the same age as Petros and Theodore. She is a daughter, like Christiane and Noel. How could you, as a mother, knowing what that means, knowing what that bond is, how important that is for Nicole, choose to kill the mother of these children you claim to love? You must have known what the outcome would be, the devastation, but you did it anyway. Killing Jennifer demonstrates a capacity for cruelty that is mind-boggling, or that you are incapable of human feeling, that you are unable to conceive of these children as anything other than things to be acquired. Your greed is engulfing, and therefore you deserve a sentence at the upper limit of the range. You claim you didn't know Jennifer, but you coveted her life, and you effectively took it for your own. First, you took Jennifer's husband. Whatever the state of their relationship, they were married. Then you took Jennifer's home, moving yourself Miami into Fort Jefferson, into Jennifer's bed. You moved Nicole into one of the kids' bedrooms. You enrolled Nicole at the school where Jennifer had 5 children, friends, a community. You tried to take Jennifer's children by erasing Jennifer. You hoped to get custody, becoming what you and Fotis prematurely claimed to be, a married couple with 6 children. You cold-bloodedly planned, executed, and covered up Jennifer's murder, and therefore you deserve to be sentenced at the upper limit of the range. This killing was not an accident. You did not lose control. You helped plan every complex step, minute by minute. You drifted around that house, fiddling with Fotis's phone, providing him with an alibi, all the while knowing he was in New Canaan, snuffing out Jennifer's life. You were intimate with him against the door of the Tacoma, bloody seats and all. You sat in the Raptor chewing gum and texting while he disposed of bags of bloody evidence. That is the definition of cold-blooded. Your Honor, I believe any and all sentences should be served consecutively. There are no mitigating factors. This woman is sophisticated. She is educated. She's an independent person. She was not swayed by Fotis. I knew him 4 years, much longer than she did. And he was no Svengali. He had no special powers. She has shown no remorse. She has had many opportunities over the past 5 years to help or show compassion, and she never has. Finally, to the degree time in prison provides retribution for these crimes, she deserves to be sentenced at the upper limit of the range. Troconis' daughter, Nicole, was 12 when Troconis conspired to kill Jennifer. In the past 5 years, Troconis has raised her daughter into young adulthood. In Connecticut, Miami, and Colorado. Troconis has been available to her mother, spent time with her sister and her friends. Jennifer will not raise her children past May 24th, 2019. Jennifer will never take care of her mother or sister. Jennifer will never spend time with us, her friends. Jennifer's sentence is forever.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask the court to hear next from Christiane. Christiane is Jennifer's daughter. She was 10 the day her mother was murdered.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
The first time I met Michelle, we were water skiing in Miami. I'd heard that she was my dad's friend, and that was all I ever thought was relevant to know. The next time she came into my life was when we left Farmington with my mom. I don't remember it very well, but I didn't know we were leaving Fort Jefferson for good. When my mom told us we were going to New York, I expected just another visit to my grandma's house. And the pictures of the house we were moving into began to be shown, and talk of dad's cheating slipped from adult mouths and spread to me. I was confused. My dad, the person who I looked up to, was doing something awful, and it was with Michelle. Michelle, the woman I had not given a thought to since I had last seen her. Our lives completely changed from then on. We were living in New Canaan and getting enrolled in New Canaan Country School. I remember talking to my dad on one of our visits. I asked him something like, "Why did you cheat on Mom? I thought you said cheating was bad." He answered, "When you really love somebody, sometimes you can't wait." It occurred to me then that the person Dad really loved was no longer my mom. It was Michelle. Michelle, the one who was moving into my house, sleeping on my mom's side of the bed. It occurred to me then that this affair was why my mom took us and left, why she cried at night, and why we were no longer a family. From then on, Michelle was a part of my life with my dad. Later on, my dad told us that Michelle was not allowed to be around us anymore, and that if we wanted to keep seeing her, we could not tell Mom that Michelle was at our visits. I cared, almost more than anything, about keeping my dad happy and proud. So when my mom asked me if Michelle was at our visits, I lied. I stood in her bathroom, just my mom and me, looked at her and said, "No, she's not at our visits." Not because I wanted to keep seeing Michelle, but because I knew Dad wanted to. Mom found out that we lied, and soon Dad's visits became shorter and shorter until it was once a week with the supervisor. Michelle's presence in our lives, even before May 24th, was overwhelming and invasive. I lied for her. I was told to trust her. I switched bedrooms so that she and her daughter could move in, all while seeing the effects this had on my own family. On May 24th, 2019, I went to my friend's house after school while my siblings went to New York. I was told I had to sleep at that friend's house because something was happening, but nobody told me what. That night, I called my mom and she did not answer. On the same day, my dad, with the help of Michelle Troconis, murdered my mom. And even though Michelle may not have been holding the weapon, I truly believe that she had a lot more to do with everything than she's letting on. Michelle Troconis to me is the reason I feel completely lost and alone on nights when I cannot sleep. She's the reason why I've blocked out my childhood, and that day so much I can barely remember it. She's the reason kids at school look at me with pity, the reason my teachers say guardians and not parents, the reason I've had to sit and watch as the people who care for me break down, the reason my siblings move through life with a huge piece of them lost. She's the reason I've had to sit on the bathroom floor with my little sister and try my best to comfort her. She's the reason I had to visit my dad in the hospital, knowing what he did and knowing he chose to leave us. She's the reason I did not get to visit my mom in any sort of way before she died and have no closure in her death. She's the reason I no longer feel I have a real beginning, a home to always come back to, parents I will always belong to. She's the reason words mom and dad spark nothing but a hazy memory. The reason those words will never again represent the person who holds me in their arms as I cry about some unimportant temporary problem. The person I can casually go to lunch with and talk about all the gossip and trauma with. The person who comes to my sports games and cheers me on. The person who picks me up from school. Mom and dad are words that only bring trauma and grief. I will never again share those simple moments that mean everything. Now, the only time I can feel my mom's presence is through memories. I listen to my grandma tell me about my mom when she was my age. Her friends share stories of her life. All of this is bittersweet. I hold on to these moments of her life knowing it should be her telling me these stories. I read her own writings where she talks about motherhood and of the future she never got to experience. Our teenage moments that she predicts she never got to live through. And now I'm coming to a point in my life when I'm starting to understand the full person she was. I only knew her as my mom. I'm now discovering who she was as a child, a teenager, a young adult, by myself. She should be sitting here and doing it alongside me. Michelle Troconis is the reason I've had to wake up every single day since May 24th, 2019, and ignore the first 10 years of my life because I cannot even begin to process everything. For that and everything else I've said, Michelle deserves a maximum time in jail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd ask the court to hear from Lauren Almeida. Lauren is the nanny to Jennifer's children and was Jennifer's friend.
Your Honor, thank you for letting me speak today. This is a photo of Jennifer on her 50th birthday. We all celebrated together. It's also her last birthday that we all celebrated together. I first met Jennifer in 2012 when she had 5 small kids and I was 21 in my senior year of college. I started babysitting for Jennifer once a week, but then that grew to seeing Jennifer and her kids almost 6 days a week. From the beginning, I was never just their nanny. To be inside someone's home is such an intimate experience, one that has many ups and many downs. But right away, Jennifer opened up her home to me and made me part of their family. We were a duo right away. She trusted me and I trusted her. It was Jennifer I went to when anything happened in my life, when I needed direction or someone to just vent to. Jennifer always had my best interests at heart and gave me a space to be heard. She made me laugh. She made me think about my future, and she provided me with opportunities I never thought I'd have. Most importantly, she loved me, and I loved her and her family. Through this experience, I've gained people in my life that were Jennifer's closest friends and are now my chosen family. Women who are teaching me how to be a mother, how to let things go, how to just live and love. They have all taken some place of what Jennifer was to me, even though that hole can never be filled. There's a piece of Jennifer in all of them. I hear Jennifer's voice in Kiki's, her intelligence in Carrie, her force with Laurel, and her wittiness in Caroline. Seeing Melissa and Gloria, I see Jennifer in their eyes and smiles. While I've gained this chosen family, it shouldn't be like this. It should be Jennifer sitting at the table helping with homework. It should be Jennifer attending sports events. It should be Jennifer taking them on college tours. It should be Jennifer's bed they run into at night. It should be Jennifer giving them advice on friendships. It should be Jennifer that they have to console them. It should be Jennifer to see them at their sad times and at their happiest. And you, Michelle, you have helped take away all of this. You took their mother, and you took my friend. The actions of Michelle Troconis have greatly affected my life and continue to affect my life. The day Jennifer went missing was the day I started to fear not only for my life, but the life of Jennifer's 5 children. And this was directly because of what Michelle and Fotis decided to do on May 24th, 2019. I no longer slept. I no longer could leave the apartment without running to my car in fear that someone would come after me. I could no longer enter my home in Connecticut without a police officer because I was afraid of Michelle and Fotis being on the other side waiting for me. We didn't leave the kids alone because we were certain Michelle and Fotis would try and take them. We had armed bodyguards escort us anywhere we went because we lived in fear 24/7. I had nightmares so bad I woke up in tears shaking, unable to let go of the thought of Michelle and Fotis taking these kids and doing something unthinkable, because the unthinkable had already happened. It has been proven that Michelle conspired with Fotis to kill, in the most gruesome way, a mother of 5 kids, a mother and my friend. May 24th.
Guys, I'm still here. I'm taking care of something that's personal, so I apologize. I'm listening as we go, but I just want you guys to understand I still am here. My apologies. Like I said, life takes precedence, so I'm still here, guys. I promise you I'll be here, and we'll be wrapping it up in a little while here, but we're gonna keep going.
2019 was the day Jennifer was murdered by Fotis and Michelle. And that was the day I decided I wouldn't leave those kids until she was found. It's been 5 years, and I still haven't left their side. I had a relationship, upcoming career, family, friends. My whole life was in Connecticut. I left all that to help Gloria and Jennifer's close friends to care for these kids. My relationship ended. I lost the place I called home. I've lost friends and time with my family. I had to rethink what my life would be like now that I had 5 kids to help look after. These kids have become my whole world, and they've taught me what unconditional love is. But because of what Michelle has done, my life has become something unexpected. I put my own goals in life on hold. My desire to have my own children has been paused. I've also witnessed what losing both parents have done to these kids. Tears, fear, sadness, because they no longer have parents to watch them grow up, watch them graduate, help them learn from mistakes, enter relationships, and share memories of their childhood. The feeling we all feel, knowing we have our parents in this world that love us unconditionally, no matter what we do. The 5 of them lost that. And while the kids are surrounded by unconditional love, this feeling of safety and security for them is gone. You, Michelle, were found guilty on all accounts in this courtroom. You, Michelle, drove with Fotis while you threw away Jennifer's bloody clothes in the trash. You, Michelle, lied multiple times to the police. You, Michelle, have been disrespectful in this courtroom. You, Michelle, have been found guilty of conspiring with Fotis to murder Jennifer. You, Michelle, show no remorse and no accountability. Michelle Troconis deserves to spend the maximum sentence behind bars because of all that she did. She helped change the course of so many people's lives. And for what? To take Jennifer's place? Because you could never. To live this lavish lifestyle Fotis promised? We'll never know, because I believe Michelle will never be honest. She took away the most genuine, thoughtful, funny, and kind person I have ever met. She took away a mother who sang silly songs to her kids, who was always there when they fell to lift them back up. A mother whose whole life was Petros, Theodore, Christian, Constantine, and Noel. Now, these kids and all of Jennifer's loved ones no longer have that. We don't even have the comfort of knowing where she is. Where is she, Michelle? Michelle helped take Jennifer's life at the young age of 50, and she deserves to live out the maximum sentence behind bars. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I would ask the court to hear next from Constantine. Constantine was Jennifer's son, and he was 10 years old when his mother was murdered.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
The actions of Michelle Troconis on May 24th, 2019 drastically impacted my life. All this began back in 2016 when I first met Michelle Troconis. I remember that my dad developed a new poisonous personality while she was around. Michelle's careless behavior led to their affair, cheating on a wonderful mother who had done nothing wrong. A family living on the opposite side of the country. Michelle was the absolute last thing my family needed. Throughout the divorce, when we had visitation with my dad, the court ordered that Michelle was not to be present. However, she insisted that we did see her. She insisted on making our family normal. She put pressure on my dad to get the divorce over. She made it clear to my dad that they had to do something. She conspired to commit murder. She conspired to commit tampering with physical evidence. She tampered with physical evidence. She hindered prosecution. She has shown no remorse. She has not cooperated. She attempted to frame Pavel, an innocent and kind man.
Pavel Gumeni is not innocent.
My mother,
He fucking helped cover up a murder.
she was a caring mother of 5 children, a loyal friend and sister, a lovely daughter. My mom always had a dream to be grandmother, forgetting the names of our many children. She will not have that. Taking away a nurturing mother at such a young age is not something you, the court, can take lightly. I can't go home to my mom and talk to her about my school day. I can't listen in on any of her stories. I can't crawl into her bed late at night. I can't learn things from her, like when she taught me how to tie my shoelace the proper way. She was my favorite person in the world, my role model. She is still somewhere in my heart. However, I will never be the same person as I was in Connecticut. All this loss is because of Michelle Troconis. I think she should serve the maximum sentence possible. In the end, however, your decision and my statement are not about me or Michelle. This is about serving justice for my mother, Jennifer Dulos. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, I'd ask the court to hear from Caroline Buckley. Caroline is a longtime friend of Jennifer and caregiver now to the children as well.
Judge Randolph, thank you for the opportunity to address the court. Jennifer was my friend for 12 years before her murder. Our children are the same age
don't know she
and went
got
to the same
murdered.
school together until she was forced to leave Farmington in 2017. We celebrated births and birthdays together, school concerts and sports days. I miss her every day. In 2017, when Jennifer found out about Michelle Troconis, such was her fear of Fotis that she planned her escape. She hid her belongings at my house before she fled. She left a community of friends that loved her. She left a school that her children loved and that the defendant subsequently enrolled her daughter in. Throughout the following months, Jennifer was shocked at the behavior of Michelle Troconis. Jennifer, honest to her core, was horrified at Michelle's belief that rules did not apply to her. We witnessed this behavior throughout the trial. As a result of Michelle Troconis' lies, Fotis Dulos was not initially arrested. Living in Farmington meant that my family were located in close proximity to the defendant. Every day, we lived in fear. We searched for answers and looked for clues for Jennifer. Places that had warm memories of friendship and fun childhoods became the stuff of nightmares. On a practical level, in May 2019, it became clear that Jennifer's house and belongings in New Canaan needed to be tended to. Documents relating to her children within days of her murder needed to be retrieved from that house. So 7 days later, I went into that house. I remember the 5 fish swimming in their bowls, the kitchen with balloons left over from a celebration scattered about the fingerprint dust and bloodstains. Going into that garage where my lovely friend met the end of her existence is something that will haunt me for the rest of my life. It was devastating to witness the evidence of suffering and unimaginable fear and pain Jennifer endured in her final moments. Michelle Troconis' actions on May 24th and beyond have had heart-crushing implications for her children, Petros, Theodore, Christian, Constantine, and Noel. Throughout our friendship, we talked about hopes and dreams for our children. Every day since their mother's murder, I have watched these dreams take shape, but they are a little duller without her bright light, and they will always be that way because of the actions and very clear inaction of Michelle Troconis. Since May 24th, 2019, I have thought about Jennifer every day. I would be going through my normal day and inevitably be stopped in my tracks by the reminder that this happened to all of us. My husband, my children, my siblings, my mom. While I am grateful for the family we have created, the reality that this murder has taken place shocks me every day to my core, and I still find it hard to fathom that Jennifer is gone. I am left to navigate a world forever changed by the cruelty of the defendant's actions. The brutality of Jennifer's death haunts me, leaving me with questions that will never be answered and wounds that will never fully heal. I miss my friend deeply. Her generosity of spirit, her optimism in human nature, her firm belief in her children, and her fierce enthusiasm for life. Our life will never be the same. Michelle, you know what your actions have affected families, not just in Connecticut, not just in the USA, but across the world. Your decision in 2016 when you met Fotis was yours alone. You could have walked away, you chose not to. You chose to get involved with a married father of 5. You chose to move to Connecticut. Know that we see you. We saw you then, and we see you now for what you are. There is no doubt in my mind that you should spend the rest of your life in jail for your actions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ask the court next to hear from Noelle. Noelle was 8. She was 8 years old the day her mother was murdered.
Your Honor, Michelle Troconis and her actions have affected my life in many ways. I've now lost the 2 people I've loved most in this world. My mom will now never get to see me or my siblings grow up, something I had known she had always wanted. I'm now growing up without my mother. This is something no child should ever have to do. Her life was cut short, and Michelle was a contributor. Finding closure is impossible, considering Michelle never gave any information about where my mother is and what actually happened on May 24th, 2019. Because of that day, I constantly feel like something worse is bound to happen to the people I love, and it could be my last moments with them at any minute.
Okay, well.
I remember seeing these stories on the news and thinking they were just simply crazy stories, and they would never.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, if this was an adult, I'd say this is bullshit, but this is a kid who lost her mom, so I kinda get why they're doing any of this. So yes. There's a dude crying in the eyes, I'm sure. Yeah, she's literally 13 right now. But I do like they were saying Pavel Gumeni was framed. No, he was a guy who helped conspiracy commit murder. So yeah. So what is his accent? Jennifer, like I think it's I forget, but she's got foreign ancestry too. So
happened to my family or me. But because it did, I feel scared that it will happen again and again to everyone I love most. Most of all, I feel betrayed by Michelle. I vividly remember her on ski trips when I was scared to sleep at night, or her picking me off my bunk bed because I was scared to go down on my own. And I remember trusting her. I don't understand how she could be so selfish. And it scares me to put my trust in other people now because of Michelle Troconis. She has made my family and me suffer. Because of this, I believe she should serve the consequences of her actions. And and I believe she should receive the maximum sentence. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Yes, I would ask the court to hear from Carrie Luft. Carrie is a longtime friend of Jennifer. She's also a caregiver to the children and the Farber family spokesperson.
After the court hears from Ms. Luft, we will take a morning recess.
And Ms. Luft will conclude the speakers, Your Honor. The state would go into their remarks after the recess.
Thank you.
So,
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
There's more to writing than just recording the facts. There's what's called fiction, art. Some people can turn their memories, the images that haunt them, into transcendence, freedom, almost.
okay.
The purge.
So I don't know who this is, guys. Are you okay if we skip ahead here? Because she's a bit, like, I don't know who this is, but we can get to I think we can get to more, like, the prosecution talking. Like, are you guys okay if we do that? Oh my God, blown out mic. Holy shit. I am so sorry. Here, I'll move this down. Yes, yes. I don't know who this lady is. I forget. I think she was one of the witnesses. Yes, the defendant has a daughter. Yeah, we're gonna skip along here. We'll skip her, and we'll skip to the state. So here we go. All right, here we go.
Your Honor, I can't express the pain.
Oh,
that
that's
Jennifer
why we
Dulos'
haven't gotten
family
that far.
and friends
I forgot to
go
speed
through
this
and
one
are
up.
reminded of every day. We have only heard from Jennifer's
Chad, I am so sorry. I had the other one cranked up, not this one. We should have been a lot farther. My bad.
family, friends, and children for a few moments today. But you can see the impact of having someone like Jennifer as their mother has had on them. They are strong, they are intelligent, and they are kind. Jennifer's friends coming together to dedicate their lives to helping these children grow and continue Jennifer's memory. This shows how amazing Jennifer Dulos truly was to inspire such loyalty and such friendship. She can never be forgotten or replaced, even though the defendant, Michelle Troconis, tried. And she tried in the most evil and heinous way by agreeing to commit murder. I mean, think about that. You agree, you have a conversation, you talk about it, and you agree. You plan to kill somebody, to take a life. The hatred the defendant must have had for Jennifer Dulos to willingly conspire to commit murder. Remember the words conveyed by a witness during the trial as to how the defendant even referred to Jennifer Dulos as a bitch who should be buried next to the dog. These children in 2019, the children Your Honor heard from today, Petros, remember, was 13. Theodore was 13. Constantine was 10. Christiane was 10. And Noelle was 8. She was 8 years old when the defendant conspired with Fotis Dulos to kill their mother. And some of the things Your Honor heard from the family are proven to be true. The defendant knew these children for years before 2019. She professed to care for them. I think about Noelle's story about trusting the defendant. And at the same time that she professed to care for these children, she made the conscious decision with Fotis Dulos to take their mother's life. Knowing you are going to inflict unimaginable pain, suffering, and loss on 5 small children, and still making that decision, still deciding to commit murder, then covering it up and destroying evidence, it's resulted in so much pain that is still to this day, and not with no closure in sight. Because Jennifer's family still doesn't know the location of Jennifer's body. And make no mistake, we will never stop looking. Jennifer's murder was so premeditated, so planned. Everything was planned out, from answering the phone, acting as an alibi, to assisting with the disposal of Jennifer's bloodied shirt and bra, along with the other items used in the crime, in the garbage on the streets of Hartford. The defendant willingly agreed to answer the alibi call, to walk around and carry Fotis's phone that morning, and to participate in the cleanup at 80 Mountain Spring Road and light the fires. And days later, she willingly agreed to continue this cover-up by writing a false alibi script, and at Russell Speeders by assisting in further destruction of evidence in the vehicle that was used in the homicide. And all those lies she perpetuated with the police, she did those acts on her own, just like she willingly agreed to murder Jennifer Dulos. It's the motive, Your Honor, the facts of the case that came out during the trial, the contempt the defendant has shown, and the cruelty that she has imposed on so many people, which mandates a substantial amount of incarceration. The motive, the reason the defendant agreed with Fotis Dulos that Jennifer needed to die was clearly brought out in the trial. The defendant wanted her dead. It is only with Jennifer's death would all the court hearings and custody hearings stop. Remember the defendant's own words that she endured 2 years of torture. It's been like a nightmare. Then she would finally be able to live in a beautiful home in Farmington. Fotis Dulos would have all the children in his home. Michelle Troconis would finally get everything she wanted. She could replace Jennifer. But in order for that to happen, Jennifer had to die. William Shakespeare wrote, "There is no sure foundation set on blood, no certain life achieved by others' death." That quotation rings so true here because the defendant thought she could build her life on Jennifer's death. The defendant wanted so badly to replace Jennifer that in April 2017, before Jennifer had even moved out of the family house, that's when she toured the school that the Dulos children were attending. And when Jennifer moved to New Canaan, the defendant again toured the school, New Canaan Country School, where the children were attended, even when she still resided in Farmington, miles away. She moved into the house at 4 Jefferson Crossing, a house Fotis and Jennifer built together, paid for by Jennifer's family. She worked at 4 Group, a business financed by Jennifer's father. And she immersed herself in the homeowners association in the neighborhood, trying to replace Jennifer and the Dulos children. Even when she wasn't supposed to be near them during visits, she was. The children were given the impossible and cruel task of lying to their mother. The defendant's cold-heartedness, her selfishness, it absolutely has no bounds. But it didn't work. She wasn't able to replace Jennifer. Jennifer fought back in court dates and hearings. She fought to protect her children. And that envy and jealousy that was so in Michelle Troconis' heart, it turned to hatred and blame. And that is when this agreement to happen. The defendant did more than just agree to commit this act, though. She assisted in it. She assisted in acting as an alibi, in covering up the murder, making these 5 children wonder day in, day out what happened to their mother. In the beginning, hoping their mother would come home. All the while, the defendant knew she was never coming home. The motive of these charges, Your Honor, that she has been convicted of is clear. It is heinous, callous, and it warrants substantial incarceration. Now, a jury of her peers have found Michelle Troconis guilty of each and every count. I'm not going to go over the 6 weeks of trial. Your Honor heard the testimony, you sat through all the defendant's interviews, her multiple lies, her misdirection, and her manipulation. Your Honor described it at an earlier hearing as 8 hours of inconsistencies on material issues and a cascade of circumstantial evidence. For sentencing today, I want to highlight some specific things that came out in the jury trial that show the manipulation and pervasive cruelty of the defendant. And I want to be clear on one thing. We're not here to sentence Fotis Dulos. The defendant is faced with 45 years. Fotis Dulos clearly would be before the court, in the state's opinion, facing a lot more time. The state is basing its recommendation on the defendant's own actions, her agreement to commit this heinous act, and the defendant's lack of remorse and her lack of acceptance of responsibility. The actions in 2019 of a 44-year-old professional, educated woman with hate in her heart and a capacity to conspire to kill. The cascade of evidence, as Your Honor called it, some of the facts. The defendant manipulated Fotis' phone to act as an alibi as he murdered Jennifer Dulos, all to ensure she answered the call, the alibi call that was on Fotis' script as if it was he that answered that call. The defendant participated in the back and forth at 80 Mountain Spring Road and 4 Jefferson Crossing, and later discarded evidence on the Hartford city streets in garbage cans. The 3 separate fires at 4 Jefferson Crossing on Memorial Day weekend when the defendant was home. And the disposal of the bags of evidence in Hartford, tampering with evidence. You know, that sounds so simple, that word, tampering. We hear it all the time in criminal court, tampering. When, if you look at the facts of this case, it's so much more cruel than that. Because what did she tamper with? Blood-stained gloves, a bloody poncho, bloody towel, altered license plate in the sewer, a blood-soaked bra, sliced down the middle, blood-soaked shirt, sliced down the front, and the zip ties, the bloody zip ties that were found with them. What was done to Jennifer that zip ties were needed? Only those who agreed to commit the act may know. We won't ever know. Days later, when the police were looking for Jennifer, the defendant was writing an alibi script. And on May 29, 2019, she and Fotis Dulos took the Tacoma to the car wash. at Russell Speeders in order to destroy any evidence contained within it. And looking at the garage at 69 Wells Lane, at Jennifer's home, a home she had just returned to from dropping off her children, what could Jennifer have been experiencing in the final moments of her life? We get to ask that. What did she experience? Sheer terror and desperation come to mind. And of course, as a loving and devoted mother, her children. I think about what Jennifer must have felt and thought as she was dying, all the blood indicating a brutal murder. If she was zip-tied alive with the bloody zip ties, we don't know. We don't know exactly what Jennifer felt, went through, or was thinking. But we do know what the defendant thought, because the very next day, the defendant got her hair done. She laughed and she smiled with her hairdresser. And later, joking at the pond with her friends, this was in her interview. She joked about if she can have sex with Fotis while in jail. Jokes. We know what the defendant thought. All the while, 5 children are home, scared and suffering. I spoke about the motive, Your Honor, the hatred that caused the defendant to commit this crime, and the egregious and awful facts.
I'm good.
The defendant has never accepted responsibility for her actions. I'm also cognizant.
I hate that, because when you go to trial, that's not fair. That's not a fair thing to say when people elect to go to goddamn trial. That is such a bullshit cop-out argument. I fucking hate it when they do that. I fucking hate it. So very goddamn much.
Of today's date. Today is May 31st, 2024. It was 5 years ago today, on May 31st, 2019, that Detective Butin with the Connecticut State Police seized the defendant's phone and began the execution of a search warrant on Fort Jefferson Crossing. On May 31st, 2019, it was the first day the defendant became aware that the police were closing in on her too. And she had a choice that day to cooperate, to tell the truth, to accept responsibility, and she made a conscious decision not to do so. Instead, she perpetuated a lie after lie after lie. And here we are 5 years later. All there have been are lies. Multiple lies, misdirection, and manipulation of law enforcement. There is no Fotis Dulos over her shoulder manipulating her. She played her role to the fullest on her own. In her 3 interviews to the police, she tried to portray the facade of the dumb girlfriend. I believe those were her words. This from a professional woman with all these degrees and accomplishments that the defense presents, numerous letters from people who have interacted with her, supported her. The dichotomy presented shows not only the lies and the facade she played in these interviews with law enforcement, but also that she can clearly play a role that is expected of her. Now, I don't stand here and minimize community support. It is such an important and treasured thing, as Your Honor can see from the Farber family community that has come together. And the letters, the numerous letters written to the court about the defendant. What's interesting to me that I found after reading them, and I did read them, is they all essentially say the same thing. And none of these people, from her family to the people she was at the cookie sale with, people she water skied with, her daughter's friends, these are just a few of the people that she wrote letters on behalf of the defendant. None of these people ever stood in the way of something she wanted. That was only Jennifer. Jennifer Dulos is the only person that ever stood in Michelle Troconis' way. And look what happened to Jennifer. The motive, facts, and the defendant's true feelings. She has not shown remorse. All she has shown is contempt. The lies show a complete contempt for the criminal justice system, for law enforcement, for the law, for Jennifer and her loved ones. And what's interesting about the lies is how pervasive and planned they are, how they're actually about important things to the case. She knew exactly what she was saying. Her contempt for law enforcement was clear. Her contempt for the trial was clear. She's actually charged with contempt of court for her actions in the courtroom during the trial. Displaying the custody report on her laptop angled toward the camera in violation of the court's order. This is the true Michelle Troconis. And just by nature, a guilty verdict for hindering prosecution. Hindering prosecution is the epitome of contempt for the criminal justice system. All these things mandate a substantial period of incarceration. But I want to talk about one last thing before I end my remarks. And that is the cruelty she has shown Jennifer's family. From the first interview with the police, she attempted to perpetuate this false narrative, this lie that Jennifer was sick, the lie that Jennifer would abandon her children and run away. Again, from the very beginning, the first interview, June 2nd, an attempted manipulation that continued throughout the trial. The defendant knew full well that Jennifer had not run away. In fact, the defendant not only conspired to murder Jennifer Dulos, she then assisted in the disposal of her bloody clothing, and then attempted to manipulate law enforcement by coldly implying that Jennifer just probably ran away. The cruelty to do this, to imply to 5 children that their mother would abandon them, knowing she was already dead. It amazes me that someone could make that evil decision to murder someone then disparaged the deceased victim over and over again for years, making things worse for those sadly left behind. The hatred, anger, and jealousy towards Jennifer Dulos, she will never let her rest. This is cruelty. The state respectfully requests the court sentence the defendant to a maximum period of incarceration. I listened to the family this morning, and hearing their pain, I don't think I could stand here and ask for anything less. She gave Jennifer a death sentence, so we are asking the court to give the defendant a life sentence, 45 years. The defendant, over the course of months and years, has never let Jennifer Dulos rest. Hopefully, with this sentence, the court does. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Shorehorn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm not going to quote from the 64 letters that have been presented to the court. I assume Your Honor had an opportunity to read them.
Yes.
And unlike the state, for my purposes, I provided those to the state days ago so they could read them. I was not given the same privilege with regard to the statements until moments before we started today. I'm not going to address them. I believe that they were heartfelt, the statements that were made, and I'm certainly not going to address any of those statements. I do, however, before I ask for certain comments to be made by family and friends, just want to note that there are, as I counted, approximately 44 people present in support here of my client, Michelle Troconis. They come from Florida, Connecticut, other states, from Europe, and 9 who came in from Latin America. There are a few that are going to be presented who couldn't fly in. So briefly, they made statements that I'm going to present to the court, brief statements by their video presentation comments to the court. But I do want to correct a false narrative that I believe the state has suggested, and which is sort of suggested by the pre-sentence report, and that is either that Michelle Troconis was the responsible for the breakup of the marriage to Jennifer Dulos with Fotis, or that she wanted to replace Jennifer Dulos and become the parent of these children. Nothing would be further from the truth. And just I'll indicate, as part of the information, the discovery that was provided, we have all of these text messages from Fotis Dulos' phone going back for years. And in those messages are all the text messages between Michelle Troconis going back to 2016, where she's expressing hesitation. You want me to move up there, but how is Jennifer going to look at this? Is this really something I should do? And Fotis Dulos repeatedly is saying she is fine, that is, his wife is fine with that. They've moved on. Their marriage has been broken up amicably. And yes, everything will be fine if you come up here with your daughter. We'll get you enrolled in the school. The children will be friends, et cetera, et cetera. So any suggestion that this was caused by Michelle Troconis is not a true picture. She also, I would also note that Fotis Dulos personally told, and it's not relevant for the trial, but personally told Michelle's family and mutual friends that it was an amicable divorce and that Michelle was coming up here and that his wife was fine with that. So I just want to indicate that because there's been a suggestion that somehow Michelle was responsible for the breakup of this fine marriage, which is simply untrue, and simply the opposite is the evidence that was not presented at trial, but is presented through the discovery material. The second thing that was just suggested by the state is that somehow Michelle Troconis wanted to, quote, replace, unquote, Jennifer Dulos. Keep in mind that it was Jennifer Dulos who surreptitiously moved down to New Canaan before Michelle Troconis moved up here, when she found out that Fotis told her that he was in love with Michelle and he was going to have her come up here. He may have told his lawyer that he had this grandiose idea that it would be great if his wife lived in the same house with Michelle and the kids could all be living in one happy house, but that was Fotis Dulos' fantasy, not Michelle Troconis. At no time did she present that, or did she even suggest that that was something that she wanted. I just note that the state did keep out, the court rather, did keep out, and the state objected to a lot of the divorce material coming in, but I've read through every divorce pleading and those transcripts that were not sealed by the divorce court, and I indicate that Michelle Troconis had no involvement in any of the things that were going on in the divorce proceeding. She only knew what Fotis told her, what Fotis's lawyers told her, and that was borne out by the testimony of the attorneys. But I want the court to be aware that any suggestion that there was some kind of scheme to replace Jennifer Dulos by Michelle and that she wanted to somehow be the cause of a split up of a marriage is not borne out by any facts. That's just pure speculation. I also want to point out that despite what I heard today, Michelle didn't just speculate about what might have happened to Jennifer Dulos. She personally went out with the police in hot, muggy weather, going through the woods, showing the police places where they traveled, where they went through with motorcycles, trying to help them. She drew maps and gave them, or places where that she knew that Fotis Dulos had gone, properties that he owned, places that he went, in order to assist with that kind of searches. So to the extent that there has been a suggestion that she didn't even try to help discover the location, or the suggestion that she has any clue as to what happened to Jennifer Dulos, the evidence, I would submit, points to the opposite. That is what happened to her ultimately, right? I'm not here to try and convince the court to overturn the verdict. I made my motion. The court rejected that, and it will just be its preserved issue. Maybe another court will have a second look at it, but I understand Your Honor's position, so I'm certainly not going to argue that. I did, however, want the court at least to have a clear picture as to what some of these peripheral issues are that had been suggested by the pre-sentence report. I also am struck by the fact that Fotis Dulos' name almost didn't come up at all. This was, to a large extent, discussion about Fotis Dulos' involvement in what he did, the actions he took. And I will note that any reference by Michelle Troconis to the Dr. Herman report during those video interviews, and again, the court ruled that that couldn't come in, but to the extent it was discussed, it was what Fotis chose to tell her about that. She wasn't stating, I believe that Jennifer Dulos had mental health issues. She's saying, that's what Fotis told me was going on. At no point during the 5 years or 4 years and a half that I was involved in this case, and I would say even my predecessor, did we, and that is Michelle Troconis' defense team, ever suggest that Jennifer Dulos ran away. Again, that's Fotis Dulos' lawyer who made that suggestion. That's what the press ran with, and that was then made into some kind of a Lifetime event movie. That was not Michelle Troconis who did that. So before I go into anything else that I want to say, there are a number of people that I want to have speak to the court, and I'm going to begin with Michelle Troconis' pastor, Pastor Christopher Solomon. So I'm going to ask him to come up at this time. And maybe if you can come to the podium, and I'll just note that people should identify themselves and where they're from.
What the court will indicate is that there's no need to approach the podium.
Okay.
All of the speakers can speak from council table.
Fine. I'll just make sure the microphone is pulled over. All right. Mm-hmm.
Good almost afternoon. We're on the edge there. I am the Reverend Christopher Solomini, and I appreciate this opportunity to share with you my statement regarding Michelle Troconis. I've served as the senior minister of Avon Congregational Church for over 5 years. Since 2019, when Michelle and her family literally knocked on the door, the members of our church have been their sanctuary and their spiritual faith family. My years of study at Yale University with a Master of Divinity have been augmented by clinical pastoral education. This is a rigorous process of chaplaincy along with personal psychological studies and backgrounds. Prior to ordination in the United Church of Christ, I served on the governing board of the Haddam Killingworth Youth and Family Services while working at regional.
Oh my God, this guy is like, homie's like fucking speed reading here. What the fuck? Church of Avon. Avon is a city in Connecticut, guys. Remember, this is New England, so you have towns like Greenwich, Avon, Stamford, Sheffield, all the time, New London. You have all that there. Half Leaf says, another pastor. It's all connected, Sean. Anyway, God, this guy is speed reading. What's on his face? Looks like liver spots. But damn, homie's going fast. You have this on background now. Yeah, they're going over Kurt. I heard about that. Oof. It's going to be rough. They are, I don't know if they're going to be kind. But anyways, here we go.
School District 17 and years before that in Florida, I served as a guardian ad litem, providing my assessments to the court from interviews with families, doctors, psychologists, and children in order to recommend custody placement for the Department of Children and Families. Seeking spiritual support and faith-filled fellowship, even though English was not her first language, Michelle participated regularly in both worship services and activities of mission and fellowship. When her parents and sisters visited Connecticut, they too participated. I wish the world could know the Michelle I know, one not defined in media bites, scribal gloss, and an agenda-driven caricature. Almost immediately, Michelle volunteered on a weekly basis to help with some ministry. regularly cooking large meals for a Hartford soup kitchen, preparing for our monthly Farmington Valley First Friday dinners, even helping convert and paint an old space at our church for a new ministry. Michelle's disposition is exceptional as a helper, and one who cheerfully and tirelessly works beside church members, young and old. Over the course of months, with her involvement with mission work, attending Bible studies, and helping in any way she could, Michelle became a beloved and important member of our faith family. She often shared stories of how in her youth, she assisted her father, a physician, in third world locales in South America where he performed heart surgery on infants. Michelle also spoke of helping feed the homeless and destitute in Caracas. Her heart is big for all of God's created, especially for children and those afflicted with disability. Empathy and compassion are at the center of her being, in my estimation. She often attended my weekly coffee with the pastor at a local coffee shop. Any number of church members, depending on their schedules, could pop in and out. I watched carefully as Michelle tenderly cared for aging members facing scary health diagnoses. I watched her grieve with and hold close church members whose beloved family died. Michelle was always especially affirming and loving to young children and genuinely affectionate to all. The relationship between a pastor and a parishioner in crisis is a sacred one, with authenticity and truth-telling the hallmarks of trust building. In the inner sanctum of my pastoral visits with Michelle, I've heard everything she feels and thinks, her feelings about all involved, her deep sorrow and grief. I've heard her prayers for Jennifer and her children, and all her anxieties related to this harrowing ordeal. I watched her react with grace despite the constant media attacks from a public who doesn't know her. I have dined often with Michelle and her family, listening to life stories, learning about their Venezuelan culture, witnessing their lament, grief, and abject despair over this tragedy that devastated all their lives. A second career pastor who considers myself nobody's fool, I was pastoral yet didn't trust blindly. In fact, I had nothing to gain and perhaps on many levels much to lose by offering any pastoral counseling to Michelle or opening the doors of my church to her. Yet today I can honestly say before God and indeed the world, Michelle Troconis is a woman of not only substantive character, but with an ethic and kind-heartedness that is almost singular. Michelle always spoke with compassionate candor, dissolving often tearfully with empathy for the Dulos children and Mrs. Farber's loss and suffering. She never played a sympathy card, even though she herself was seemingly losing her own life with the ability to live with her daughter. She never asked for favors or for any financial assistance from the church or from church members, and to my knowledge, she never received any. My life is dedicated to ministering, burying, marrying, teaching, and holding the hands of many as they pass from this world, the real stuff of the world. I'm rooted in God's world and believe in justice that offers the greatest good. I myself and so many in my congregation have and will continue to pray for Jennifer's children, her mother, her sister, and all her family and friends who have been robbed of a future with Jennifer. I also pray the court, seeking God's guidance, will show mercy in today's sentence to mitigate the immense suffering already endured by this tragedy and see it fit and right in the name of the highest justice and for the good of society to restore Michelle to her daughter and to a productive place in our world community as soon as it is possible. I don't say this lightly and with the full knowledge of all the circumstances at hand. I believe wholeheartedly Michelle to be a person of extraordinary good character and a faith-filled person I would trust with my very own life. Thank you for your service to our community, and may God bless you.
Thank you.
I'm going to call on Dr. Carlos Troconis to speak next, please.
Your Honor, Judge Kevin Randolph. I am Carlos Troconis, an American-trained pediatric cardiac surgeon, mostly dedicated to altruistic medicine, particularly on underprivileged children with heart disease. With my efforts and the Heart to Heart Foundation, thousands of children's lives has been saved. I am here on behalf of my daughter, Michelle, who, although born in Memphis, Tennessee, grew up in Venezuela, where English is not our first language. And from now on, I will try to do my best. From a I am a proud father of 4 daughters and grandfather of 8 American grandchildren. From a young age, Michelle joined me on medical mission to indigent, neglected indigenous areas like the Amazon. She displayed great empathy and compassion with any patient while they heal. I come from a family of 7 siblings. My oldest sister, Laura, was born with an intellectual disability and was educated in a special needs school, co-founded by my father, pioneering special education in Venezuela back in the 60s. Michelle was very close to her aunt, Laura, and this bond, and along with the practice on the medical missions, inspired her to study special education. Michelle also developed a passion for outdoor life and animals, particularly horses. This led her to specialize in equine therapy, assisting children and adults with special needs. Despite the divorce between her mother, Maricela, and me, my daughter's life has remained unaffected by our separation. We handle it with mutual respect and understanding, ensuring that our daughter's upbringing was stable and loving. Michelle's ability to maintain positive relationship and her resilience through personal challenges were shaped by the way her mother and I managed our divorce. The amicable handling of our divorce provided Michelle with a strong foundation and the understanding that even in difficult times, maintaining respect and cooperation is crucial. In 2006, Michelle became a mother. Since then, she has devoted her life to supporting her daughter's dream of becoming an Olympic champion. Through dedication, hard work, discipline, perseverance, and love, my granddaughters achieved her dream, ranking in the top 10 for the United States team at the Winter Youth Olympic Games 2024 in South Korea. Even though Michelle was on trial, her steady support was crucial to her daughter's success. Regardless of the separation from her daughter's father, Michelle ensured that her daughter's life remained stable and loving too. Drained from her own experience with our respectful handling of our divorce, Michelle maintained a nurturing and supportive environment for her daughter. This separation did not affect her upbringing, neither. And both parents continued to prioritize her well-being, focusing on her education and family values. Our family has faced painful difficulties. Michelle's confinement has been overwhelming, especially for her teenager daughter, who needs her mother's guidance and support. These past 5 years has been the hardest of my life. I have left behind everything I love, including my patients, to focus on the legal process and support of my daughter through this heartbreaking process, coping with difficult challenges. My heart goes to the Dulos children who lost both of their parents. As a father, plead with you, Josh Randolph, to show mercy in my daughter's sentence, given the chance she could continue to be a valuable member of society, providing care and restorative therapies to children and adults. I hope that these examples of Michelle's compassionate character I have shared will consider in your decision. Respectful, Dr. Carlos Troconis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to call on Michelle's mom right now, Maricela Arias, to speak, please.
Your Honor, Judge Randolph, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Maricela Arriaza, and I am Michelle's mother. I come before you today with a heavy heart filled with deep sadness and much emotion, not only as a mother, but as a clinical psychologist who completed a master's degree in Memphis, Tennessee. Michi, a nickname Michelle's family and close friends call her, she was a twin. Her twin brother sadly died as a baby. Losing a baby, a child, is devastating pain that leaves a hollow mark. You might imagine the extra love and special care her father and I poured upon her. Michi and all our daughters were raised to be respectful and to be hard workers. We knew coming from another country was important. These traits were, and all our girls have made us very proud. Raised also with a strong faith, they are known in their communities for their sweetness and caring love for all. Michelle has been my companion and has always been by my side when I needed her. For example, when I separated from her father at 35 years of age, Michi, then a teenager, saw the additional burden I had to handle and support me in any way she could. She did this by helping with her sister's homework and after school activities, while I continued to work long hours at the clinic to support them. My goal has always been to instill a solid balance of both a diligent work ethic along with family values into all my daughters. And I believe her father and I succeeded in this goal. Motherhood is Michi's everything. This is evident in how she raised her daughter, instilling in her our family values and a love for one another that she learned from her childhood. My granddaughter, now a responsible teenager, an excellent student, is a testament of Michelle's dedication and constant care over these 17 years. For these reasons, the circumstances we all find ourselves in today are very difficult. When Michelle met Fotis Dulos, he presented himself to all of us as a family-oriented man going through an amicable divorce. He convinced all of us of his good intentions, knowing how a friendly separation can be as witnessed by me and her father. Michelle believed Fotis and had no reason to doubt him. However, we were all deceived by Fotis. At this trial, revealed a man vastly different from whom we thought we had met. Had I known the danger Michi was in, I would have immediately removed my daughter and granddaughter from his presence when I arrived in Connecticut on May 30th, 2019. My heart breaks for the Dulos children and all who suffer from this loss. My thoughts and prayers are with them every single day. Your Honor, today I stand before you, enduring the hardship of misplaced trust in a man who betrayed many. This story sadly ended in ways that left us broken and devastated. I am here to plead for your understanding and mercy for my daughter Michelle, who would never, never knowingly put her child or anyone at risk. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to call on Eleanor Howard, please. Come forward. Oh, Sandra Little, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, Judge Randolph.
Good afternoon.
I thank the court for hearing me as I speak in support of my friend Michelle. My name is Sandra Lytle, and I've known Michelle for 4.5 years. I first met her in the worst chapter of her life had begun. She had moved out of the home where she was living and moved into a temporary situation within walking distance of our church. She immediately began to pitch in various volunteer situations. She became a regular at cooking once a month as we prepared a meal to serve 120 people in a Hartford shelter. She also became a regular at cooking once a month for our community dinner. I now manage the church's thrift shop. 3 years ago, it was just simply an idea, and Michelle showed up and cleaned and painted the space for the shop. She attended regular Sunday morning worship services, and whenever her family was in town, they would accompany her and participate in whatever activity Michelle was involved in. Over the following weeks, months, and years, I got to know Michelle. I observed her as she met fellow parishioners, some who have various needs. Each and every time, she would work on a way to offer help and support. I witnessed her on several occasions when she could draw on her past experiences or on her deep faith to offer hope and encouragement to others. She is a trusting, intelligent, kind-hearted woman, full of compassion and generous with both her time and talents. Michelle is a positive contributor to her community, and above all, she is a loving mother who is trying to protect her daughter from the horror that has entered their lives. The seriousness of the charges against Michelle caused me to pause for breath, but not for a moment do I falter in my support of Michelle. While recognizing the evil, manipulative man that was Fotis Dulos and the tragedy that has befallen Jennifer, her children, her parents, and her friends, I pray they may find strength, peace, and comfort on their unspeakably painful journey. I also pray that over time, Michelle can be recognized as yet another one of Fotis's many victims. I appreciate your thoughtful consideration of my experience with the Michelle that I know when you determine her sentence. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to call on Elizabeth Van Loon, please.
Judge Randolph, my name is Elizabeth Van Loon. I have been invited here today to speak on behalf of my friend, Michelle Troconis. I have known Michelle and her family since 2019. Michelle has been attending my church, where I've been a member for almost 40 years. And over the past 5 years, this is the Michelle I have come to know and deeply respect. And I believe her true character is not as it has been portrayed in the news media. Dedicated mother. Michelle is a deeply loving and dedicated mother. Her daughter, as you have heard, is a competitive downhill ski racer at the international level and trains in both North and South America. Michelle has described to me how she spends hours each day online going over school lessons with her daughter so she can continue her education while training. Michelle is the mother who can inspire a competitive.
So guys, listen, look, I know it sounds like bullshit when this happens, but you've got people coming to bat for you. I mean, they have the right to speak. They're speaking on behalf of Michelle that she's a good boy. She didn't do nothing wrong. Yeah, that's what she's here for. Like, I know you guys don't like it, but it is what it is there. All right. And then after this, I'm going to make sure she's still going. Oh, Jesus. So it's getting to be 10:30 here. The accomplice, you know her as that? Well, she didn't do nothing. Well, they're just saying we don't want to get her to go there. But I know you guys are like, I'll just... Why you know on Kino Casino? Because they haven't asked me to be on. I've heard what they're doing to my boy Kurt. I don't want any part of that. I still love Kurt. So, yes, these are, bro, add 20 to next current state. You look like I found a pyramid. Jesus. Oof. God damn, you guys are brutal tonight. You guys are being awful. Yeah, both families are in pain. Yeah. It's not rough. It's been rough for Michelle's people too.
Child remaining emotionally close when they are physically distant. Loving. Michelle's love encompasses all of her family. Her parents and sisters attend my church whenever they are in Connecticut. One holiday, and I do believe it was Christmas, the entire family came to worship. Parents, sisters, brothers-in-laws, nephews, and her daughter. The family, when dispersed, is in constant contact via text and Facebook, so they can share the pictures, joys, and sorrows of their daily lives.
I don't know, honestly. I'd like to think at times it has. But generally, courts kind of make up their decision already. Most of the time, they made up their decision most of the way. And then I think for a lot of judges, it kind of gets solidified when they hear things. But I'm sure it does. Like, you don't just give up. You keep fighting. And I'd say this judge is probably very impartial, and he's letting them, shoot their shot.
Michelle maintains an excellent relationship with her ex-husband in Argentina and was delighted when he remarried and had a son with his new wife. Michelle shared with me joyfully a picture of her daughter with her new baby brother. Compassionate. Michelle's love extends to all who are in need, both human and animal. While in Connecticut, Michelle volunteered for horses who've been abused and now live on a rescue farm. She came to church regularly to bake cookies for the local police department and other first responders. And as you have heard, she's helped to cook delicious meals, which our church delivers to the soup kitchen, Loaves and Fishes in Hartford. And closest to my heart, Michelle is a model for caring. She has shown me how to love and care for a family that is geographically dispersed.
My daughter serves overseas with the United States military, and her family is stationed with her. I have 4 young grandchildren, and I'm able to visit with them infrequently. Michelle is always asking about my family, particularly my grandchildren, and I'm always happy to share their pictures with her. Michelle inspires me to know that love does not fade with long distance, and that parents, children, and grandchildren can remain close when they are apart. And I am deeply grateful for having Michelle in my life and providing this example. Faithful. I see that Michelle embodies the Christian spirit. As Jesus commanded, she loves God and her neighbors with a tender and open arms. And I do pray that God's love embraces the family of Jennifer, particularly her children, as they must navigate their lives without her. And I ask you, as the sentencing judge, to show compassion and mercy to Michelle Troconis. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call on Michelle's sister, Daniela, to speak, please. Daniela Troconis.
Your Honor, Kevin, my name is Daniela and I'm Michelle's sister. We're only 2 years apart, which has made our relationship very close since childhood. Michi isn't just my sister. She's my best friend, my big sister, my role model, the maid of honor at my wedding 20 years ago, and a significant inspiration in my life. Her character shines through a devoted mother, a caring daughter, a loving sister, the godmother of my son, and the most dedicated aunt to my children. Michi's remarkable courage and selflessness were vividly displayed during a trip to the Amazon in Venezuela. While with a group of friends, I found myself trapped by rapidly rising waters in a river. Michi quickly organized our friends into a human chain, and her calmness and quick thinking saved me from being swept away by the current into a dangerous waterfall. It was her strong arms that pulled me to safety, a testament to her instincts to protect me and save me that day. Michi has always been my biggest supporter. When I started my own business back in 2013, she helped me transform my dream into a reality. She worked day and night without asking for anything in return. All she wanted was to help my business grow. She passionately guided me and coached me on how to launch my idea. I am blessed to have her by my side. Despite her legal challenges over the past 5 years, she remains there for me, offering me advice for me, my children, when needed. Michi's unwavering dedication to helping those in need has inspired me. Michi has always dedicated herself to impacting many lives positively, even during these difficult times. She prioritized her daughter's education and athletic training. Also, she was very involved in community service, such as preparing meals for the poor at the Avon Church in Connecticut and suggesting to me to donate shoe covers to hospitals during COVID's shortage. This reflects her compassion and generosity. My sister and my role model is cherished by all who know her. I sympathize with the Dulos children are going through. I feel immense sadness because I met the children when we spent Christmas together in 2017. My own kids are the same ages as the eldest twins, and it breaks my heart to think of their loss. I treasure the memories of that beautiful Christmas we shared together. The trial has taught all of us that Fotis Dulos, the man we met and thought was a good man and worthy of my sister, was not what he portrayed to us. We all feel lied to. We all feel betrayed. Your Honor, I implore you to have mercy. Michi's life mission has always been to dedicate to service to others. The Michi I know could never harm or assist in harming another human being. I am begging you to consider Michelle's many positive contributions to the community and her family throughout her life. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I'd like to call on Eleanor Howard, please.
Hello, Judge Randolph. My name is Eleanor Howard. First, I offer to the family and friends of Jennifer Dulos my deepest condolences. I'm here to say how I know Michelle Troconis. We've been friends since September 2019 when I met her in church. I was never concerned about being with her. I did wonder if others might be, but I was taught in church to welcome all, no matter where they were on their life's journey.
I will say, guys, yes, it's a bit sussy to start finding church as soon as you're getting hemmed up for a murder, but hey, it's never too late to find Jesus.
Michelle is one of the kindest women I know. She always asked, how was I doing? She helped me this year by sending me a thoughtful list of places to see in South America. She gave me confidence to travel there. At her home, she showed hospitality to my husband and I over dinner.
Just warned us of this future.
Her unfailing warmth in greeting me brought me happiness. She introduced me to her family and friends, who are now my friends. Michelle always found ways to help at church. She helped videotape an outdoor worship service, the first one after COVID lockdown in June 2020. It took kindness to want to help during COVID, even outdoors and socially distanced. She attended church coffees, a drop-in gathering of friends, and she brightened the meetings with her interest in everyone. It was always better when she was there. On a Valentine's Day, Michelle gave everyone in church a box she'd made filled with chocolates. She had mugs made with our church logo. It was extraordinary to me. Coming to church to give to us. I just thought it would have been the other way around. And all she asked of being in church was to worship and pray. At the church's crowded social hours following Sunday services, Michelle was friendly. It may be scary for anyone, any newcomer to join in, but Michelle never hesitated. She was comfortable with all of us getting to know her. I visited a horse rescue organization where she volunteered to take care of horses. It's hard for me sometimes to go to new places, but I knew if Michelle was there, it would be okay. I saw her help her daughter with homework, connecting online. She's a loving and gentle mother. She told me that when she was about 10 years old, she went with her father, the physician, to a remote Amazon region to help people. She described it as a perfectly normal thing to do, but I was amazed by her generosity in caring for people in need. And I will close with this. During a Bible study group 5 years ago, it was hard for Michelle to fully understand English. In a big group with everyone talking, this weakness was not evident. But in that small Bible study, discussion focused on each of us in turn, and we were each put on the spot. She didn't understand some of the questions put to her in English, and her responses in English were not always smooth. I know Michelle has been found guilty, but to me, she's a friend and a trusted and valued community participant. She made positive differences in my life. She showed me things a generous person could be, who a valued member of my community is, and how easy it is to share kindness. She never gave me a reason to doubt her sincerity. I feel the Michelle I know is the real Michelle. And I ask that you please show mercy. Thank you.
Juan Herbert Smith, please, to speak.
Your Honor, thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of my sister-in-law, Michelle Troconis. My name is Herbert King, and I'm here to share my personal experiences with Michelle and to ask for your compassion and leniency in her sentencing. Michelle is an extraordinary person who has a...
Well, yes, that's the reason. Yes, Pseudo-Snark, if you guys aren't aware, if you're in the Army and you're boot camp, you can go to church and you get out of a lot of things. But they handed out Snickers bars? Wow, that's pretty cool.
Significant positive impact on my life and the lives of many others I know. She welcomed me into her family with open arms, becoming the sister that I never had. Michelle.
Yes, if somebody runs out with the Michelle sentencing paperwork, is it like in Taiwan? Oh no, what do? We don't have a law to pass anymore. Mr. Troconis, I can't find you guilty. I don't have the paperwork to sign. You're free to go. Like, yeah, I don't know how that works. She was just enjoying the D.
Support and acceptance were vital to my relationship with her sister Daniela, my wife. We admire Michelle's core values of love, compassion, and caring for others so much that we named her the godmother of one of our children. Michelle has shown to me what it truly means to be a parent and to provide unconditional love to a child. She put her own dreams on hold to support and care for her daughter, embodying selflessness in every sense of the word. She taught me the importance of putting one's personal life on hold to meet those needs of others. Michelle's free spirit, her creativity, her openness, and inclusiveness of others are qualities that I deeply admire. She has taught me that true fulfillment comes from sharing and giving to others, not from material possessions. I look up to her, I admire her, and I'm incredibly thankful to have her in my life. Anyone who knows Michelle, as I do, would consider themselves blessed. Throughout this ordeal, Michelle has maintained her dignity and humility. Despite being under intense public scrutiny and facing numerous challenges, she has continued to contribute positively to the community through her volunteer work and supporting her church. Her strength and resiliency are truly admirable. Michelle is selfless. She's always putting others first. She loves life and she enjoys sharing her life experience with others. She instills humility and she has taught my sons the real happiness comes from hard work and giving opportunities to others. She helps us get through the hardest of days with just a simple smile, and she serves as a role model to many in our family. Her ability to give to so much to others is just extraordinary. Your Honor, as a family, we place our hope in the court and respectfully request mercy and your judgment. The Michelle that I know is not the type of person who would harm anyone or conspire to do so. She always gives back. She never takes, and she makes a positive impact wherever she goes. Your Honor, I humbly ask you to consider the profound impact that she's had on her family, on me, and in the community, and that you show compassion during her sentence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on, Wendy Isco. She stepped out, so then in that case, I would ask that cut. Oh, here she is. I'm sorry. Ms. Isco.
Good afternoon, Judge Randolph. My name is Wendy Iscove. I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to share with you today some of the personal experiences with the defendant, Michelle Troconis. I realize the court has found her guilty of the tragic crime set before her, and I'm here with the hope that I might shed some light on the character and personality of Michelle, with the intent of revealing to you what I know of her as a compassionate woman, mother, and friend. In 2019, she attended our church for a period of 5 to 6 months when she was under house arrest and required to stay within the limits of the community. While at the church, I participated with her in several volunteer service ministries there, of which you've heard of today. For example, preparing food for the homeless population in Hartford. As well, together, we created cards for housebound and hospitalized members of the church. She was always willing and eager to lend her time and talent to these volunteer activities. We knew we could count on her.
Yes, I would. I would
whenever
love
and
to.
wherever she was needed. Perhaps the greatest offering of herself came in the form of her offer to coach my daughter for free in an equine therapy setting. Michelle and I talked of her own experiences working with children and adults in these types of programs and the improvement they brought to the quality of their lives. We were actively in the process of trying to find a horse facility where this might happen on a regular basis at that time. However, regrettably, we were unable to find that within our community. Had she had the opportunity to work with my daughter would have greatly benefited from being under Michelle's kind and gentle tutelage, as well as being the recipient of her skillful knowledge of horses and equine therapy. Every interaction I had with Michelle revealed her to be an intelligent, authentically caring and compassionate person and mother who talked lovingly of her own daughter and family, one who cared deeply for all the children of God. It is my hope that you will take into consideration when sentencing her with this, who this nonviolent, caring woman is and how she has displayed such personal courage, integrity, and calm as she endures this verdict upon her life. Indeed, we are all aware that no one should ever have to suffer the horrific loss that Jennifer Farber's family and friends has had to endure these past 5 years. It is with sincere respect for their painful journeys that I pray for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Call on Michelle's sister, Marisela.
Your Honor, Judge Randolph, I appreciate you taking the time to hear my stories about who Michi is to me and what she represents in my life. I am the third of 4 siblings. Our parents got divorced when I was 7, but they did an outstanding job of preserving a parenting relationship to raise us with unity and solidarity. And here they are, together for us. Growing up, I've always looked up to Michi because she's the kind of person who stands up for those who need help and teaches by doing. Imagine all that my big sister taught me, from reading bedtime stories to playing in the park, riding bicycles and horses, roller skating, water skiing, and making sand castles, to role modeling what a good mother is. Yes, she taught me all the skills I needed to be the mother I am today for my twins by showing how devoted, lovely, and caring she is to my niece, my goddaughter. When I was a kid, if any of us, or even when my school friends were having a tough time, Michi was there, wiping our tears and making sure we did not feel alone, but loved and protected. By doing this, I learned how important it is to care for others and to build strength and resilience in life. She has always stood up for me and my sisters. I tried to do the same for my youngest sister. This is how we pass our hearts to one another in my family. One of my fondest memories is when Michelle learned and mastered her driving. She would take us to school, turning those rides into lessons on social awareness and kindness. Our school was across town, requiring us to cross several very poor neighborhoods. She colored those rides by describing to us how the poor were in hunger and in need, so that we thought twice when we did not want to eat our lunch. We would often prepare an extra sandwich to share with less privileged children along the way, instilling in us a lifelong commitment to empathy. Now, because of Michi's influence, my everyday job is to place myself in the shoes of the American consumers to serve and improve their lives. When I was accepted into university with a scholarship, but lacked transportation, Michi gifted me her car. Thanks to her, I was able to pursue my dreams of a higher education. This made a significant difference in my life, and I learned about generosity. My heart has been heavy with sorrow for the last 5 years, and I have lived in deep pain every day. My thoughts and prayers are with everyone affected as we endure this hardship. In these moments of profound loss, the strength and unity of a family become precious. Judge, I beg with all my heart and spirit for your openness to a different view and mercy for Michelle. She has always been there for us. Her genuine heart treats everyone with so much love. She keeps our large family connected, ensuring we stay close to preserve family traditions. She's also an amazing aunt to my twin boys, encouraging their dreams of playing sports professionally with her incredible belief that no challenge is too big to overcome. As you can see, Michi means so much to me and has always been a pillar of light, strength, and hope in my life. She is the heart of our family, and without her, our lives would be profoundly broken. Thank you for your consideration, Judge Randall.
Thank you. Attorney Schoenhorn, what we will do is take a break until 1 o'clock and then resume at 1 o'clock. And please give heed to the marshals.
All rise.
So, guys, yeah, this is how it goes. Jennifer was great too, by the way. Yes. Does anyone see Pie Case? No, I haven't seen her. The prosecutor is something Jupin, can the judge still mistrial? Not really, but like you could probably get a new sentencing and maybe get that prosecutor kicked out. But no, it's really too late now to mistrial or change the verdict. But the sentencing can get all fucked up. No, Mary, we're gonna suffer through the break. We're just gonna stare at the seal. Of course, we'll skip through. But we got some stuff here, guys. I want to answer some questions. Seek a low there. For 10 Singaporean dollars says, off topic, but I recommend you for not, I commend you for not advising Aaron Imholt to shut his mouth about his association with Nick. You did that on purpose. I asked him if he had consulted with an attorney, and Aaron said he had spoken with one. I only recommended he speak with one before he speaks out loud. Once he said he did, and my attorney said I should talk, you've been advised. I've done my duty as a good attorney. Also, guess who is not receiving my super chat money? Ralph. Well, thank you for spending it here. That's a shame, says, motion for Sean to stream anything that comes from this judge's courtroom. I think there's another trial he did. It's Brian North. He's a police officer who got into a shooting, and we could watch. That's one of my backlog trials we're going to get to coming up. It's actually very interesting. Agbao Kevin says, pre-sentence investigations happen for all sentences, correct? They're most of the time they do, even in misdemeanor cases, they'll happen. But it's sometimes a requirement, sometimes not. Like in Ohio, there are times where if you want the judge to impose community control, they have to do a PSI. But since then, there are times they've changed the law where it's not always mandatory now. But for a while, like you had to have it if you wanted probation. So, hold on, guys. So I hope that answered your question, Ag. Unhung Hero for $2 says Bizarro Nick looking a little strung out as well. John Shorehorn's working hard. That dude's all over the place in Connecticut. Rosalind says, so they didn't find her body, only the bloody clothing? Correct. They found nothing. No hair, nothing. She's gone. Gonzo. They don't know where she's buried and like whatever. They have no idea. Alfavre is for $5 or a fire Fievra. If I messed it out, I'm sorry. Yes. Killing a man is a hell of a thing. You take away all he's got and all he's ever gonna have. Isn't that out of a Pale Rider? It's out of Clint Eastwood movie, I'm pretty sure. Young is saying, I wonder if they were told not to mention Fotis. Well, yeah, but he's also not responsible. Like, you can't blame her for what he did. Shot is busy blogging. No, I was talking to a friend of mine. It was a very important matter. Shot is live. The sentencing is not correct. It's 10:50 on a Friday night in Connecticut. They're not doing this. Lugmeister for 20 Norwegian krona. Although NOK makes sound like it's from North Korea. You guys should work on that. Says he probably helped hide the body in the graveyard. Yes, the preacher did, I bet. Wombat Mommy says, is he saying that the church is okay with her sleeping with a married man? I think the church would say if she sinned, we wish to forgive her if she wants to change her ways. Because that's how Jesus said it. He said, go forth and sin no more. He didn't excuse her sin. He just said, quit being a hoe. If she quit being a hoe, that's part of fixing your problem. Colostomy Bag said, since women are property, can't they just blame him? Yeah. Kelly R for $20. Thank you, Kelly. Says off topic, but go to Salty Cracker at 2:08 or just past the timestamp for the do not come crowd. We'll take a look at that. If you mean he's on Rumble, I'll look for it real quick. Miko Star says, makes you wonder, do you truly know your folks? Jim Rome, the sports announcer on the sports radio guy, he says it. He says it best when something happens to people out there. He's like, you truly don't know anyone. We truly don't know anyone. You guys don't know me. I don't know you. You think you do, but you don't. Super Happy Fun Time says Sean won't admit it, but he's wishing these people would shut their yaps. You have no idea. KJ says, good attorney. You mispronounced best blogger. Well, yes. Cedar Rose for 2 loonies or 1 toonie says, a tip to go towards a dog treat fund for Clyde. And technically, wherever you hide a body is a graveyard. Yep. Did they bury the clothes or are those still evidence? Well, the clothes are still in evidence. I'm assuming they might release them at some point, but you can't release those really forever because Michelle's going to appeal. So you got to keep all the evidence. And then they're going to keep onto it for a really long time. I'm sure they did like the traditional when you can't find a body. There's a coffin. Everybody puts in something, a memento they have of hers, and they throw her in. They fed her to gators. Ah, yes. Yes, the Connecticut alligator population did that. There was actually a question here I want to say. Would Nick's church forgive Nick? Yes, it's you should forgive people if they repent and seek forgiveness for their transgressions. If they change their ways, yes, you should forgive. You know, part of forgiveness is accountability, but yes, forgiveness is something, you know, for them not to forgive him, that would truly be unchristian. But you earn the forgiveness by showing your sincerity. But yes, they certainly would. I guarantee you they would. EDW Raptors is just the tip. Yeah. Fotis must have been smart, helped the homicide case once. The dude buried his ex 6 inches deep. He was only there for like 30 minutes digging. I'm like, that ain't long enough to dig a hole, right? Well, that's the thing. I mean, when you kill someone, you're in like a lot of times like, oh my God, I'm like, uh-oh, what do I do? What do I do? And then also people are just dumb. They don't realize like how deep 6 inches is, or they get tired, they're running out of time, you're burning daylight. Like the sky, you know, you're digging in the middle of the night and the sun starts heating up the sky. Like you got to get going. So any number of reasons that stuff happens. Yes, they took Jennifer Dulos up to Vermont with Chloe. Legitimate question from D. Okay. How much trouble would someone be if they're affected, if in their affected thing that they demanded the guilty get life or death? And if not, they would hunt the guilty down to do it themselves. I mean, you hear that every once in a while, and courts generally try to tell you to like, okay, knock it off. But I've heard that before, like when they're telling my client, when you got out of prison, I'm gonna kill you, or when you got out of prison, I'm gonna be waiting, or I'm gonna find people in prison to make your life hell. That happens. That happens. Courts generally don't like that theatrical bullshit, though. You know, and as the lyrics of One Nine Hustler go, the strong move quiet, the weak start riots. So if you're gonna move strong on somebody, just fucking move on them. Don't announce it to the world. Just take them out. Digging holes big enough holes got to be real hard. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you got to dig a hole, and then if someone finds you digging a hole, you got to dig another hole. Soon, it's like they say in casinos, soon you're digging holes everywhere. So, all right, guys. Let's, you know, it is, how much of this do we have left here? We have a whole, we have 3:21. We got about 20 minutes. And then we've got, oh, here, what is this at? 450. $30. We got about 50 minutes. We got about an hour left, chat, and we'll finish this up tomorrow. Because Danny On is doing her birthday stream, and I want to go there and say hello to her, and I don't want to leave her hanging. You guys want to jump to the sentencing? What do you want to hear Michelle talk? You know what? We'll finish it up. We'll move to Michelle talking, and then we'll move to the sentencing. How about that? Okay, we'll get to Michelle. So here's Michelle. That was her daughter who spoke right before her. So here we go.
I would now call on Michelle's sister, Claudia Troconis.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Claudia Troconis, and I am here today as the youngest sister of Michelle Troconis. I am grateful for the opportunity to speak about my sister, whom I deeply admire and support.
Hold on here. We'll skip.
Michelle has always been an example of kindness and
go.
compassion in our family and communities. She would never intend.
She is a perfect example of kindness, thoughtfulness, people grab have. A mouth always carries the chance
he was standing.
Limited time. I want to point out a couple of things that haven't been made clear.
So we're going to do Schoenhorn, we're going to do Michelle, and then the sentencing.
First is that during the trial, the court did not have any aspect or understanding what kind of person Michelle was, whether it was from media or just what people were saying about her during the trial. The court received a completely different caricature, if I will say, as to who she really is. She's a loving daughter, sister, and mother and friend. She's a religious and charitable person. She was kind, she's helpful, not only to other people, but to animals, to the disabled. I know, for example, as the report indicates, that the Pane program at the university she went to, which stands for Association of Parents and Friends of Exceptional Children, the degree she got, exceptional children in Spanish means special needs children. This is what she did. Her equine therapy, whether she actually went to Dubai at one point to work with disabled children there. She worked at the horse rescue in Avon while she was here. She's had no criminal history. She has no history of violence whatsoever. She even bought a condominium in Colorado so her daughter could train and be there with her during the winter months so she could compete as a competitive international skier on the Youth Olympic ski team representing the United States in Korea, where Michelle was not allowed to go because of the restrictions of this trial. I'll just note at one point that Fotis Dulos became angry that Michelle bought the condo in Colorado rather than using her money to invest in his company. That's what kind of person he was like. She may have been naive, that she believed in Fotis, she believed who he was, and she believed the police when they were talking to her. And also, I will note, she believed her former ineffective counsel. The probation officer, as the court indicated, stated that it's not fully clear what role Michelle played. And I submit that that's still true to this day after the court heard 2 months of evidence during the trial. There's a concept in the law of minor versus minimal role versus the role of others. The court cannot sentence Michelle for what Fotis Dulos or others did. We talk about relative culpability. It is Michelle the court has to consider, not what Fotis Dulos did. And none of the things that he did are attributable to Michelle. And I will go further, Your Honor, that although the court doesn't agree with my arguments that she had very little knowledge, if anything, about what Fotis was up to, I will note that whatever the court feels was her complicity, it made no difference to what Fotis Dulos did or what was uncovered as to what Fotis Dulos did. It did not help complete something that wouldn't already have occurred, but for things that she herself told the police. They would not even have known about that. So she is the one who implicated herself, according to what the state said. I note she is not a danger to anyone in the community. She was, while on release, she received a form of punishment because she was on house arrest for 9 full months. She could not leave for any reason other than going to counsel's office. I found that I was one of the sole bases for her to be able to leave her small apartment that she had.
I thought it was very interesting. He pointed out that the prior counsel was ineffective. And I mean, yes, it was very ineffective counsel, but it's not going to be anything that can overturn her case because it wasn't a trial. So if you have an attorney and he fucks up prior to a trial, that's not really an appealable issue generally. I mean, you might argue that was like, if I was her attorneys, I would argue she was denied her Fifth Amendment rights by having ineffective counsel. But the problem is she hired that attorney, so it's kind of her problem. But it's nice to see that he agrees this guy sucked, the guy before him.
To stay in because she was ordered out of the large home that she had been staying at in Farmington with Fotis. In addition, she was on a bracelet for 1,404 days until Judge White removed that condition in 2023. And I would submit that such long bracelet, having to charge 1 to 2 hours every day, also constitute, reminding her every single day for years, also constitutes a form of punishment, even if it doesn't involve incarceration. When I talk about comparative responsibility, the court is not here, cannot punish Fotis Dulos. He's not here. I understand people's anger in their inability to punish Fotis Dulos for what he did. But Michelle is not a substitute for what the court, if the court was in a position to sentence Fotis Dulos, to do to her what the court would have done to Fotis. And finally, I note, Your Honor, that we're talking about comparative responsibility. Pavel Gumieni was clearly, based on his own testimony, had knowledge of what was going on. He was told by his own admission, Fotis Dulos, there may be DNA on my car seats. Remove those car seats. Did he refuse? No. His excuse was, well, I didn't want to lose my job. But he removed those car seats. He deceived the police until they came and took his truck and then came to his house to take the white Jeep that was parked in his driveway. Only then did he mention, oh, by the way, I still have those seats here. But he was given full immunity. Because he was given full immunity, he suffered no consequences at all, and he was rewarded with U.S. citizenship afterwards. Whoever was down moving that vehicle in the afternoon of May 24th, we don't know who that is. But again, someone who was directly responsible down in New Canaan. So if we're talking about comparative responsibility, and I note that Pavel Gumieni got a free pass, my request is going to be for probation for Michelle, because she's already suffered the vilification of not just people here, but in the entire country, if not overseas as well. Now, it's my understanding, that's all I have to say. I know that Michelle has some words that she wants to speak to you on.
Thank you.
Will the court hear from her?
Yes.
Now, I think that's fair to point out. Pavel Gumieni did get American citizenship as a result of his cooperation, which I think is bullshit. That's a fair argument. The other guy who actually did a lot of stuff got citizenship out of it. Well, gosh, she's already been screwed for a while. Yeah, I think it's only fair that they work this out for her. I mean, really. So, I think it was a good point by her. Oh, I can't wait for her to say Jennifer, Jennifer, Jennifer.
Your Honor.
Notice she's also doesn't have her Spanish interpreter anymore. Shocking.
I am deeply saddened by this tragedy that has affected so many lives. I found out things before and during trial about a man, Fotis Dulos. I thought I knew and loved. I deeply regret ever being in a relationship with Fotis Dulos and bringing my daughter, my family, and myself into our lives, into his life. I am a person of profound faith, and I have been praying and will continue to pray for those who suffered and still suffer. I am thankful to my whole family and my dear friends who have stood by me and support me. I am grateful to you, Your Honor, to let me express myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our presentation.
Thank you. What the court is going to do is take a recess and consider the remarks.
That's
The court has read the pre-sentence investigation report. The court has also read the 63 or so letters submitted to this court in support of Michelle Troconis. We're going to resume at 3:20. Stand on recess.
All rise. Superior Court's on recess.
Wow. 63 letters. Jeez. That's good. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's not abnormal. And you start sending in letters and things for your family and friends, like that happens all the time. Tell them where Jennifer is. She might not know where Jennifer is at this point. She might not know. Fotis may have killed her and took care of that. I don't think she knows. It's Fotis Dulos, Fotis Dulos. So here we go. Okay, here we go, guys.
Superior Court's back in session. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. Please be seated. Court has heard the remarks of counsel, remarks from family members, the remarks from what the court would consider victims of the crime. Almost always, there is no single appropriate sentence. Otherwise, the legislature would have designated a single appropriate sentence for every offense. The charges here are conspiracy to commit murder, which is a Class B felony. The legislature has set the sentencing range, not less than 1 year, nor more than 20 years. Which means the legislature contemplated, in some instances, sentences of no more than a year, and in the same instance, sentences of 20 years. The legislature has given the judiciary a range. Conspiracy to tamper with physical evidence is a Class D felony, maximum 5 years. Tampering with physical evidence, a Class D felony, maximum 5 years. Hindering prosecution is a Class C felony, not less than 1 year nor more than 10 years. The court relies on what the law states and what the law allows to be proper considerations in setting a sentence. The court relies on the nature and circumstances of the offense, the history and background and character of the offender. After such consideration, the court turns to what are called the traditional purposes of sentencing: specific deterrence, general deterrence, punishment, incapacitation, rehabilitation, vocational or educational training, and medical treatment. Those factors are not all given equal weight depending on the nature and circumstances of the offense and the history, background, and character of the offender. The court does not take sides. If the court knew possibly any one of you and had a bond with any one of you, this court would not have tried that case. It's not the court's role to side or favor one side or another. Sentencing, in many ways, is a dispassionate exercise. The court has no bond with any individual who spoke today or any other individual involved in the case. The court cannot develop the passions that one side or the other has. In State versus Huey, that's 199 Connecticut, 121 and 126, a 1986 case, the Connecticut Supreme Court held that the sentencing court may consider information that would be inadmissible at trial for the purpose of sentencing. That same court held that evidence of crimes for which the defendant was indicted but neither tried nor convicted may be considered. Well, the word indicted and the process of indictment is not generally employed in Connecticut. Essentially, that means where there has been a finding of probable cause, but there has been no trial or no conviction. Additionally, as a matter of due process, the court may consider information that has a minimum indicia of reliability. Now, that minimum indicia of reliability is not limited to unfavorable information. The court can consider favorable information that has a minimum indicia of reliability. The court certainly considers the victim impact statements. Every victim has the right to be heard before the court sentences a defendant. That's part of the Connecticut Victims' Bill of Rights, which is read every day in every courthouse here in Connecticut. The court would clarify what it perceives as perhaps a misconception of what the court's role is. The court does not deliberate with the jury. The court does not deliberate on the evidence at all. The court hears the evidence as the evidence comes into the record. So when you hear that the court has a view of the evidence, the court has no view of the evidence. What the court has is a verdict and what could have been the reasonable and logical inferences from the evidence that was adduced. The court would not know what the jury discussed over those many hours.
He's right, they don't, but he can make his own assumptions.
What the court can find is this. It was clear during the jury charge, jury instructions, that the court instructed the jury that it may draw any reasonable and logical inferences from the facts found to have been proven. Based on the verdict the jury could have found the following reasonable and logical inferences. Fotis Dulos was not home at 4 Jefferson Crossing the morning of May 24th when his wife was murdered, but the defendant said he was home. When the defendant admitted that he was not home, the defendant, who had been angry about Dulos's talking to other women, did not even ask him where he had been. The defendant, who was angry that he had visited his wife, did not ask him if he had visited her. In fact, the defendant, as the court remembers the evidence, didn't ask him anything. The jury could draw a reasonable and logical inference that the defendant knew where he was and knew what he was doing. The defendant said she saw Kent Mawhinney and Fotis Dulos together in the office at 4 Jefferson Crossing on the morning of May 24th, but the defendant did not see Fotis Dulos and Kent Mawhinney in the office at 4 Jefferson Crossing on the morning of May 24th. There was a phone call made to Dulos's phone, which Dulos left intentionally at 4 Jefferson Crossing. The defendant answered it, and the jury could draw a reasonable and logical inference from all of the evidence that the defendant answered the phone to make it appear that Dulos took the call himself on the morning of May 24th at 4 Jefferson Crossing, when he was really on his way to or in New Canaan. When a police officer came to 4 Jefferson Crossing soon after the murder, the defendant did not even go to the door, even though her daughter, who was not home, may have been the subject of that conversation at the door. Now, it has been clear that the defendant cares deeply for her daughter. The jury could draw a reasonable and logical inference that the defendant did not go to the door because the defendant knew the reason the officer was there, to find out more about the disappearance of Jennifer Dulos. These are reasonable and logical inferences from the facts that were adduced in the case during the trial. The defendant traveled through a part of Hartford with Dulos as he dumps the bloody clothing of his wife. The jury could draw a reasonable and logical inference that on the same day, the defendant helped him pretend he was home in the morning, but in the evening accompanied him to get rid of the evidence. The defendant's DNA profile was found on one of the bags disposed of in Hartford. The jury could draw a reasonable and logical inference that the defendant helped dispose of the evidence knowingly. The jury could draw a reasonable and logical inference that the defendant helped Fotis Dulos clean up traces of evidence at 80 Mountain Spring Road because the defendant and Dulos were there together cleaning on the same day that Tacoma traveled to New Canaan. This is a flurry of irregular activity all on the same day. The jury could draw a reasonable and logical inference that the activities of that day were so irregular that the defendant could not possibly forget them in the span of 2 weeks. Even if the jurors individually had doubts about the defendant's guilt, each one of them ultimately concluded that their doubts were not reasonable. This is not a view of the court's view of the evidence. These are logical and reasonable inferences that the jury could have drawn. The court is going to talk a little about the philosophy of sentencing. Sentencing is not the product of the court's passions or prejudices. The court doesn't have a bond with anyone involved in the case. It's a dispassionate exercise. The court did not investigate the case. The court did not talk to the victims. The court has no conversation with the defendant or the defendant's family. So there are some questions that are age-old. Does the court, the sentencing court, adopt the public opprobrium, the indignation of the community?
Yeah.
When does retribution turn into revenge? What's the role of empathy? Should the court exercise sympathy for one side or another? These are age-old questions. The court relies on what the law says. The court can consider the nature and circumstances of the offense, the history, background, and character of the...
All things the court can consider, guys.
Every exercise is not an either-or exercise. Often, the good and the bad are true. What is the purpose of the court taking into consideration the victim impact statements? Is that only for the purpose of sympathy? The court uses the victim impact statement to assign, in its view, the proper weight to any one of those traditional purposes of sentencing. Sentencing is not arbitrary or capricious. It's not a matter of how the judge feels that day.
Sometimes it is.
The court wants to also address what has become, over the course of perhaps centuries, perhaps not, a cliche. Michelle Troconis' life is in your hands. Michelle Troconis' life is in her own hands. What Michelle Troconis decides to do today, tomorrow, and the next day is up to her. From what the court has heard, she has a great deal to offer. The court has no control over what her decisions will be. Her life is hers. The following sentences are going to run concurrently. On the count charging conspiracy to commit murder, 20 years execution suspended after 14 and a half years to serve, 5 years probation. Tampering with physical evidence, 5 years execution suspended after 4 years, 5 years probation. Conspiracy to tamper with physical evidence, 5 years execution suspended after 4 years, 5 years probation.
Okay.
The second count of tampering with physical evidence, 5 years execution suspended after 4 years, 5 years probation.
Okay.
Hindering prosecution, 5 years execution suspended after 4 years probation.
Okay.
After 4 years, rather, 5 years probation. Total effective sentence, 20 years, execution suspended after 14 and 1/2 years, 5 years probation. You will have an opportunity to challenge every finding that the jury made and every ruling that the court made. Madam Clerk, you can give the defendant a notice of right to appeal.
Judge, I'm going to orally state that Mr. Troconis does intend to appeal and ask the court to set a reasonable appeal bond. I will state that the appeal bond that the court set was not something that Ms. Troconis or her family were able to meet. I'm asking for something more in line with what she had been released on bond for the last 5 years. I would note that after Your Honor went on vacation, the state asked for additional conditions, which included making her move to Connecticut and remain within the bounds of Connecticut. My position, Your Honor, is the court obviously took that into consideration when it set that high bond, that she was not a resident of Connecticut, because that's what the state had then argued. I'm asking that if she's going to be released, that the court set a $2 million bond, but with a condition that she reside in Connecticut and not leave without permission. And
The court is going, well, counsel, the court is going to decline to set an appeal bond, not a constitutional right. Has the defendant signed the notice of right to appeal?
I mean, also, like, that's not going to happen. On a murder case, that ain't happening.
We'll stand adjourned.
All rise. Superior Court now adjourned. Please exit the courtroom.
So, yeah, that's it, chat. The end of Michelle Troconis. For now. For now. Yes, so he goes straight to jail. Straight to jail. So she's sentenced to 20 years, but she's out in 14 and a half. And then she has 5 years of probation. So, yeah. Yep. That's the way I understand it as well. 14 and a half years in prison, 5 on probation. Unless she wins on an appeal, which she might. Who knows? I think there's a lot of appealable issues, but I don't think it's going to change. So 14 and a half years for murder. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But once again, that's the court saying, like, look, I'm not going to, this lady kind of get a bad spot. She wasn't the one who was behind all this. He's like, he's not going to burn her down. So he was trying to be nice to her. What has she served already? Well, it depends on how Connecticut looks at it. But if she served if she served all this time on, like, if she served all this time on house arrest, typically you don't get that normally as counted as time served. Typically, like house arrest, you get that for time served if you're getting after, like if you've been sentenced and you're put on house arrest and you can't leave your home. Like here, you get to count that as days served. I don't think she's going to be able to cheese the 5 years basically of conditions and house arrest she's been under to that sentence. It'd be nice if she could. Because then it'd be less than 10. But I don't think so. Super having a fun time saying, I thought all sentences had to be noticed concurrent or consecutive. There's generally, and I assume most states go by this, and I'm assuming Connecticut, you would, part of how you determine, like a court would say, well, we look at his sentence, he gave all this time, and then he said only X amount. It's clear they were concurrent. There's also Ohio and other states, I do know this, if they don't explicitly state they're consecutive, they're automatically presumed and considered concurrent by default. So, yes, all the sentences were concurrent. Jennifer's family's pissed. Well, what, they're not going to be happy at this point. What are they going to be happy with? So, yeah, he said they'll all be concurrent. But I think some people said they didn't hear that. So if you don't hear it, there's generally presumption they're concurrent. So, do you guys have any other questions? I mean, yeah, it's a rough one for everybody in there. And Kelly, you wanted me to off topic salty cracker real quick. Hold on here. The salty cracker. He was just on. Okay, hold on. You said go to 2 hours and 8 minutes or 2 minutes, 8 seconds. Why is this not working? Hey, Salt. I'm at the 2-minute 8 mark, and there's that not the thing we're looking for. Unless you're saying 2 hours and 8 minutes. Kelly, I'm not sure where you were talking because I don't see what you're saying. Yeah, but go to Salty Cracker at 2:08. I just yeah, I don't see Trump saying, I'm gonna come. So I'm not sure where I see it at. You said the 2-hour mark. All right, I'll try that then. Because I don't see it. We'll try it again. Larubala. Sale. The salted crackered. So. All right, come on. God, there's so many ads on Rumble. Oh, okay, I get what you're saying, yeah. All right. You know what? Actually, I know where that guy is on Twitter. Hold on here. Let me see here. Where is... Where is that thing at? I'm trying to find the actual original of it. Hold on, guys. All right, where... All right, you know what? We're just going to do that from here. We're going to do it from here. So here we go, chat. This is for you, Kelly. Found it. Here we go.
Thanks, Fista. And G-Man. Here we go, boys. An oldie but a goodie.
Do not come. Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come. That chick's pissed. Fuck you, dance, bitch. Dance for me, monkey. Dance horribly for me. There it is. Go, go. I'm gonna come. Unstoppable fuckers. Gee, man, thank you. Yeah, Zombieland's pretty good. I'm sure they fucked up the second one. Okay, I get it. Fundraising off of this big story, but I went from getting 1 to 2.
And actually, here, hold on. This is better. This is it.
Do not come. Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
Yes, we're doing Karen Reed tomorrow, guys. So, yes, we're gonna do Karen Reed tomorrow. Probably start around like 1 o'clock is the plan. All right. How do we clip that? So it's out there. It's if you go to just the guy's Alpha Fox 78, he's got it there. Yeah, but it's out there. Yeah, where's Unhung? I hope he didn't miss that. It'd be a shame if he did. And Danny's still alive. Good. All right. So I'm gonna send you guys over to Danny's. I'm gonna switch it over here, and then I'll see you guys there shortly. And if you guys are new and you've been here for the other streams, this is some of the stuff we cover. You know, these trials, these sentencings, how it goes, I mean, that was a pretty intense sentencing hearing that went 6 hours. I mean, most of them are like 15 minutes. Sometimes you get like an hour-long one, but that was insanely long. That was very different. That was very, very different than what normally happens. But it's good for you to see that this is how these things are. Let's see. Danny. Oh, by the way, that officer who killed the black guy down in Florida, he got fired. So the Air Force guy. So that's good news. Don't know if he's going to be charged though. EDW Raptor says, "Woo! We are going to Denny's." Am I the good ending, PPP? Sure. I mean, I'm still autistic too, so you're not really getting a change there. Oh. So, all right, guys, we're going to head over to Danny's, and I'll see you guys there. And remember, until next time, and even though she did it, I guess for now, Michelle Troconis is guilty for the next 14 years. Sadly, sorry. So, good night, chat. Good night. Oh, forgot we're gonna play off. We're gonna play ourselves off.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on